Welcome to the Spring 2020 Town Meeting of Millis. I call this meeting to order. My name is Donna Cabibbo, and I'm your town moderator. I declare that the warrant has been duly posted, published, and that the reading of the warrant is hereby waived. I now ask that you please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'd like to recognize the town officials and community members in attendance here today. From the Select Board, we have the Chair, Pete Germain, Clerk Craig Schultz, and Vice Chair Erin Underhill. We have our Town Administrator, Mike Kaczynski, our Town Council, Jay Tallerman, Finance Director, Carol Johnston, and our Town Clerk, Lisa Jane Harden, and our Assistant Town Clerk, Kathy Smith. I'd also like to take a moment to acknowledge the presence of our state rep and state senator. So Ms. Becca Rausch is here. And our representative, David Linsky. And at this time, David has served as a representative of Millis for 23 years. With the withdrawing of districts, unfortunately for us, he will no longer be representing Millis. Those of us who have worked with David over the years will miss his tireless dedication to our town and its needs at the State House. Regardless of which side of the aisle you were on, David was always there to offer advice, assistance, and support. David would like to offer a few brief words at this time.
Thank you, Madam Moderator, and through you to the town meeting members of Millis. And thank you for giving me a moment to allow a non-resident of Millis to speak with you for a few minutes. I realize I need unanimous consent to do that. This is a melancholy moment for me. I've had the highest honor and highest privilege of my life for the last 23 years to represent the good people of Millis in the Massachusetts Great and General Court in Boston. When I first ran for state representative back in 1999, I had one connection to one person in this town, and I really didn't know anybody at all. And since that time, I've grown to really love this town and to love the people of this town. And you have thankfully accepted me as one of your own. When I first ran, my youngest son, Jared, was just getting out of diapers, and he now works on Wall Street. Hopefully he's totally out of diapers at this time. Although maybe his father is probably getting close to the diaper time himself. But it really has been a pleasure. I've seen this town grow. I've seen this town change. I was sad when Bob's burned down and I lost my breakfast place, and then followed after that by Butter Binks. I know what trivia night is at Victory Lane. And I've really loved this town. I had the joy of seeing Clyde Brown open up and help get the funding for Clyde Brown. I've met many, many, many great people in this town. You've got me through January 5th, okay? You've got me through January 5th. And I will still represent you as best as I possibly can through January 5th. I will work as closely as I possibly can with whoever is fortunate enough to take my seat or into the new district. You're going to be in a district, just so you're clear. The reason this happened, quite frankly, is under the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the Commonwealth, we have to redistrict every 10 years based on population changes. Natick, my hometown, grew by 4,000 people. It's now 37,000 people. So that caused a problem right there. I lost Millis and I lost Sherburne out of my district, and I'm very sad about both of it. but I'm sure you're going to be very well represented. I want to thank all of you, in addition for welcoming me into Millis, but for also doing your part here in the legislative body tonight for the town of Millis. I always say that what happens at town meeting, what happens in local government, has more direct effect on people's lives than even the President of the United States. Because it's town meeting that decides what roads get paved, whether your trash gets picked up, whether or not the streets get paved, whether or not your children are well-educated in school. That's what town meeting is about, and you each have an equal voice. And it's something very, very special, and you should cherish it and take it seriously. I want to thank all of the local Millis town officials for all of the help and support they give me through the years. I want to thank my legislative partners through the years. That would be Senator Cheryl Jakes, it would be Senator Scott Brown, Senator Rebecca Rausch, it would be my House partners, it would be Representative Dooley, Representative Ross, then Senator Ross, and then Congressman Barney Frank, Congressman Jake Auchincloss, and Congressman Joe Kennedy for my legislative partners through the year. Thank you again for welcoming me. I look forward to serving you through January 5th, and I thank you from the bottom of my heart for giving me this wonderful, wonderful privilege and opportunity for the last 23 years. Godspeed, and thank you very much.
Okay, at this time I'd like to give a special thanks to the individuals who checked everyone in tonight and for how well and smoothly that all ran. At the 2019 Spring Town Meeting, funding was approved for a senior center feasibility study. As a result of the study, 3 options have been proposed for a new senior center that can also be used as a community center outside of senior hours. These options are described in the handout you received when you entered town meeting tonight. The Permanent Building Committee has scheduled 4 focus groups to offer details about the 3 options. All Millis residents are invited to attend, ask questions, and provide feedback. The dates, times, and locations for the focus groups are provided in the handout. Please be a part of the process and participate in the focus group sessions. Please reach out to the town administrator's office to express your interest or get more information. And I want to also thank all of you for joining us tonight and taking care of the town business. We are here to consider 28 articles presented on the warrant. There are some important articles on this town meeting warrant that require a 2/3 vote. Under Mass law, I cannot declare such a majority without either a bylaw or your approval. Accordingly, to avoid lengthy standing counts, I move for your approval for me to be able to declare a 2/3 vote, provided that if I cannot reasonably declare such a vote, I will direct the tellers to conduct a standing count.
Second.
So the motion has been moved and seconded. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? The motion carries. The Finance Committee reviews all article and budget proposals and presents their recommendations to you. The moderator is an independent elected official who presides over the town meeting to ensure a fair, orderly, and open consideration of the warrant articles. Your role is considering the articles, debating them, and deciding how to deal with the articles for consideration through voting. Now to the procedures for tonight's meeting. We will consider the articles in the order in which they are presented in the warrant. It is possible to advance the consideration of an article by majority vote, though I urge you to stay for the entirety of the meeting as all articles are important. Articles are presented through a main motion by the Finance Committee and then seconded. A Finance Committee member will then describe the recommendation and reasons. Debate will follow in the form of statements and questions by town meeting members, which are registered Millis voters. Please be aware that the motion as presented may differ from the warrant article. We will be discussing and voting the motion as presented by the Finance Committee. All town meeting members are eligible to address town meeting on an article. To speak to a motion, please rise and proceed to the microphone. Identify yourself by stating your name and address. Please direct all comments through the moderator. Personal exchanges are not appropriate. Please be civil and respectful. Be considerate and allow others the opportunity to speak. Only comments directed to the article currently under consideration are in order. Amendments can be made to a main motion and can be made at any time during debate. This must be in the form of a motion to amend and must be seconded. When debate is complete, the motion to amend will be voted upon. Once the amendment is decided, we will return to the main motion. Multiple amendments may be considered, but only one at a time. Once debate is over, a vote will be taken. All votes are initially by voice vote. If the voice vote is unclear, I will then call for a standing count. Majority vote is typically required on any motion, though certain articles need a 2/3 or 4/5 vote to pass, and I will notify you of such motions. Special motions. Motion to reconsider. It is possible to move to reconsider a previously decided article at the end of the meeting only after all the articles have been dealt with. There must be new information to be presented to make this motion, and it must be seconded. Motion to move the question. This is a motion to end debate on an issue. If this motion is seconded, it will be voted on. There is no debate on this motion, and it requires a 2/3 vote, and if passed, debate on the original motion ends, and the meeting must vote on the main motion. Motion to adjourn. This would end the meeting after all the articles have been dealt with. The moderator will accept a motion to adjourn, which requires a second and a majority vote. These are the major rules we will follow to consider the articles presented to you today. At this time, I call upon the Chair of the Finance Committee, Pete Berube, to introduce the Finance Committee members and address you regarding their deliberations.
Thank you, Ms. Cabibbo. Good evening, everybody. My name is Pete Berube, and if I would just ask my colleagues to raise their hand when I call your name. Jody Garzon is our Vice Chair. Peter Underhill is our Clerk. Jim Borgman, Jonathan Lohr, Kathy McGinnis, Sarah Reyes, and John Stedman. I want to wish a speedy recovery to our other colleague who's not here tonight, Joyce Boyardi. Thank you for those that are helping us come back together and able to finally have a town meeting indoors and in person. I want to thank the Board of Health, the town clerk's office, and the elections workers. Thank you also to Millis Community Media, who have been with us all the way every week as we meet in order to film and record our proceedings, often late into the evenings. And then, of course, to Millis Fire Department, police departments, thank you very much. I also want to extend our thanks to our elected representatives. Thank you very much for seeing how we do it here in Millis. I'm sure you've, we appreciate your presence here. Thank you. Most of all, thank you to the town of Millis residents for coming out to vote. But like many good deeds, thank you comes with another request, and that is next time that you come to town meeting, please bring a neighbor or a friend so that we can have as many people as possible participating in our decision-making process. If you look around, this is not a criticism of anybody here, and certainly not of those that couldn't be here. There's many reasons, but I'm sure that we can get more people to participate in annual town meeting and fall town meeting. So please bring a friend next time. Thank you. We have nearly 30 articles to discuss and vote on tonight, and since I don't have much more profound to say, we're going to get right to it. Ms. Cabibbo.
Mr. Brewery.
It's coming up. I move that the reading of the warrant and return of service thereof be omitted.
Second.
Motion's been moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries unanimously.
Ms. Cabibbo.
Mr. Berube.
I move that the moderator be granted unanimous consent to omit the reading of the articles and refer to them by number and subject matter.
Second.
The motion has been moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously. We will now move to consider Article 1.
Madam Moderator,
Mr. Borgman.
I move that the town vote to transfer from free cash the sum of $3,427.19 and transfer from the Water Enterprise Reserves the sum of $18.66 and transfer from Sewer Enterprise Reserves the sum of $18.66 for the total sum of $3,464.51 to pay for the following unpaid bills incurred by the town departments from the previous fiscal year. WB Mason, $399.96. WB Mason, $599.94. WB Mason, $919.98. WB Mason, $199.98. WB Mason, $199.98. WB Mason, $399.96. Timothy Costello, $100. WB Mason, $18.66. BizCom, $33.48. Comcast, $555.25. WB Mason, $18.66. WB Mason, $18.66.
Second.
The motion's been moved and seconded. Discussion.
Madam Moderator,
Mr. Boardman.
this is an annual article to fund bills incurred in previous fiscal years. The bills for this town meeting total $3,464.51. The Finance Committee recommends approval of this article.
This article needs a 4/5 majority to pass. Any further discussion of Article 1? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Passes unanimously.
Article 2.
Madam Moderator,
Mr. Underhill.
I move that the town vote to transfer from the following accounts the sums of money listed below to fund additional wages and expenses to the accounts listed below, which were not sufficiently funded under Article 3, operating budget of the May 1st, 2021 annual town meeting. Transfer from Town General Government, $101,838.15. Health and Human Services, $14,484.46. Culture and Recreation, $20,000. Public Works, $7,398.01. Employee Benefits, $6,372.09, for a total transfer from of $150,092.71. Transfer to General Insurance, $31,738.18. Public Safety, $118,354.53, for a total of transfer to $150,092.71.
Second.
Article 2 has been moved and seconded. Discussion.
Madam Moderator,
Mr. Underhill.
these transfers are typically made at spring annual town meeting to the various budget divisions in the current fiscal year to make sure that the overall budget balances by June 30th. The main drivers of the transfers this year are to cover unanticipated public safety vacancies caused by police officers, firefighters being out due to an injury. The town must pay these salaries as well as overtime related to covering their shifts, as well as unexpected increase in general insurance costs.
Any further discussion of Article 2? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously.
Madam Moderator,
Mr. Baruti.
Article 3, I move that the town vote to fix the compensation of elected officers, provide for a reserve fund, and to raise and appropriate, including appropriations from taxation by transfer from available funds, the sum of $39,781,035 to defray charges and expenses to the town, including debt and interest, and a reserve fund for the general fund for the fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2022, as outlined in Table 2 of the Finance Committee report, with the following revenue sources. Taxation, $37,801,118. The Ambulance Fund, $412,234. Perpetual Care Interest, $332. Sale of Cemetery Lots, $7,212. Cell Tower Revenue, $55,224. Bond Premium Release, $114,831. Marijuana Impact Funds, $303,449. Free Cash, $375,899. And to authorize the following transfers. Sewer Fund indirect costs to General Fund, $247,258. Water fund indirect costs to general fund, $302,204. Stormwater fund indirect costs general fund, $161,274.
Second.
Motion for Article 3 has been moved and seconded. Discussion.
Madam Moderator,
Mr. Berube.
the budget recommended for your vote is a balanced budget. It does not include an override vote and proposes to responsibly use projected new growth revenues to pay for non-discretionary increases like must-pay contract wage increases, employee longevity raises, and increased benefit costs, for example. It includes funding for select discretionary increases such as those I'm about to outline. I will outline significant discretionary increases that are proposed. Those increases that I do not discuss are typically the result of annual wage and expense increases or are relatively inconsequential in overall impact to the budget. I would refer you to page 27 of the Finance Committee report to follow along. The budget is structured into 8 major categories. Line 1 is general government. General government includes the following departments: selectmen, town administrator, finance director, accountant, assessors, treasurer, collector, IT administration, town council, town clerk, registrars, elections, planning board, conservation, zoning board, town buildings, finance committee, reserve fund, general insurance, and employee benefits. For the Selectmen Town Administrator budget, the Finance Committee recommends increase of the Town Administrator total salary line by $33,363.67. The recommended budget includes creation of an Assistant Town Administrator, Human Resources Manager for approximately $21,000 via upgrade of the Operations Support Manager position. The town does not currently have a consolidated HR function with expertise in this field. It is estimated it would cost the town over $70,000 to hire an HR director. Further restructure of the town administrator's office is recommended by a reduction of the department assistant 2 by 4 hours and addition of a department assistant 1 for 18 hours for a net increase of approximately $22,000. The recommended budget also includes allocation of $9,200 of marijuana impact funds for the town administration of retail marijuana sales. Expenses of $37,000 for an annual audit have been moved to the operating budget, as well as $35,000 for a townwide contracted social worker to be paid via marijuana impact funds. Each of these marijuana impact funding amounts are for 1/2 year and would likely be voted again at fall town meeting for future appropriation. Excuse me. For the Finance Director Accountant, increase by $2,977 is proposed for professional education and developmental conferences. For the Assessor's Office, increase of approximately $28,000 is primarily due to accounting of the annual recertification audit within the operating budget, whereas in previous years' town meetings, it was appropriated as a standalone article within the warrant. Proposed budget also includes increase for training, cost increase of $2,500 and $3,800 for field review of residential properties. And the town clerk's budget. The town clerk's budget is proposed for increase for dog licensing subscription fees. Going to page 28, in elections, the recommended election budget reflects an increase of over $18,000, mainly for costs required to accommodate mandated early voting. In town buildings, the town buildings budget reflects an overall decrease of approximately $60,000. The decrease is possible through collaboration of the town administrator's office and the Millis Public Schools. This initiative would go into effect if the operating budget is approved, as well as Article 23 providing authority for consolidation of maintenance functions. General insurance on page 29. The general insurance budget reflects 9.6% increase in fiscal year 23, mainly due to anticipated insurance premium increases due to property policy and workers' compensation policy claims occurring over the last year. Employee benefits budget reflects an increase in approximately $384,000 or a 6.4% increase due to benefit costs, including health insurance and Medicare Part B. The recommended overall increase to line 1 is 6.3%. Line 2 is public safety and starts on page 29. Public safety consists of police, fire, dispatch, building department, sealer, weights and measures, emergency management, and animal control. The police department budget is recommended for increase of $150,978.77 or 6.5%. This increase is comprised of approximately $77,000 in wage increases in the first year of 2 newly leased police cruisers in the amount of $74,078.61. The fire department budget is recommended for increase by 2.7%, mainly from step increases until negotiations with the firefighters union is complete. Increased training and certifications costs of $7,250 is also included. The building department on page 30. The building department budget is recommended for an increase of $20,956 or 8.6% for increased inspector stipends. This is due to increased number of inspections that the department is conducting. The recommended overall increase to line 2 is 4.6%. Line 3, Millis Schools, on page 31 of the report. The school budget is recommended for increase by $1,341,637.72 or 7.8%. In addition to increases in contract wages and increased expenses, the increases include the following: $130,000 for additional custodial maintenance of town buildings, $89,999 for new school bus leases, $69,900 for new computer leases, $5,000 increase in Medicaid fees, $66,815.60 in marijuana impact funds for social emotional learning program teacher, additional after-school activities at extended day, and vaping detectors at the middle school, high school bathrooms and locker rooms. Plus, and most significantly, is an unanticipated increase in $360,000 of tuition and transportation funds for out-of-district placement of special education students that Millis is responsible for if it cannot provide the required educational services internally. Line 4 is Tri-County Vocational High School. The Tri-County budget is recommended for a decrease of $79,380 due to fewer Millis students projected to attend during fiscal year 23. Line 5 is Public Works. The Public Works budget consists of DPW highway, street lights, transfer station, and snow and ice. There are no significant increases recommended for the DPW budget as shown on page 32. It should be noted that pavement and sidewalk improvements over and above the projects funded by Chapter 90 funds received from the Commonwealth are included in Article 15. The Line 6 is Health and Human Services. Health and Human Services consists of the Board of Health, Council on Aging, and the Veterans Support Office. The Board of Health budget is recommended for increase by $5,118 for additional nurse hours, $1,200 for cell phone coverage for the nurse, who to date has been using their own phone, and marijuana impact funds of $4,000 for e-cigarette education and outreach. The Council on Aging budget is recommended for increase by $9,546.84 of additional staffing hours for expanded coverage and programming. Almost done. Line 7 is Culture and Recreation, shown on page 33. The Health and Human Services line consists of Culture and Recreation, Library, Historical Commission, and the Oak Grove Farm Commission. Noteworthy increases to Line 6 budget result from dissolving the Recreational Revolving Fund. The Recreational Department Director requested the department be funded through the general fund going forward versus via a revolving fund as has been done in the past. A portion of the Recreation Department's personnel and expenses up to now have been financed by its revenue-generating activities. Going forward, all funds received by the Recreation Department will go into the general fund, and salaries and department expenses will be the obligation of the general fund. Thus, approximately $91,000 of additional salaries and expenses are now reflected within the recreational department budget. There are also approximately $39,808.44 in marijuana impact fee funded requests, including included in the recreation department budget. They consist of hours and benefits for a teen program coordinator, as well as staffing and supplies for an inclusive camp to be held in the summer. The Historical Commission budget reflects an additional $2,500 for building maintenance at Niagara Building. The Oak Grove Farm Commission requests budget increase of $17,419 for trail maintenance. It should be noted that there is a separate request for non-recurring expenditure covered in Article 11. Line 8 is debt service, shown on page 34. Line 8 debt service is principal and interest on the town's short and long-term borrowing. The proposed budget can go up or down year to year based on a variety of factors, including interest rates, potential for new voter-approved debt, or maturity or payoff of previous borrowing. Line 8 is recommended for decrease of $94,736.70, a reduction of 2.5%. In total, the operating budget for fiscal year 23 reflects an overall increase of $2,048,413.27, or a 5.5% increase. The Finance Committee voted 8-1 to recommend approval of Article 3.
So we're going to go through this by those general line items that the chair of the Finance Committee was referring to in terms of our discussion points. So I'm going to start with line 1, general government. Line 2, public safety.
I'm sorry, I have a question on...
Please come to the microphone and identify yourself.
I'm Jim Duffy, Exchange Street, Millis. Probably the depth of the details Mr. Berube outlined in personnel changes in specifically in the Selectmen A. There's an 80% increase in expenses in these line items. Is that due to a net new hire, or what's the significance behind an 80% increase in expenses for this department? And I think there's a net new hire of an assistant town administrator. If somebody could illustrate why that's necessary or what we're doing to offset those costs in other areas, that'd be great. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Kaczynski?
I've got
Oh, Mr. Schultz.
We're working with one mic, so please bear with me. The increase on expenses does not relate to any staffing positions. Expenses are just that, expenses. The biggest item in there is the audit. The audit had always been listed as a separate expense in the warrant, and we moved that cost over to the budget because it's a recurring cost. It happens every year. If the town meeting doesn't vote to fund the audit, I really don't know what we do. We can't borrow money. We can't do anything else. So we put it... 36,000, yeah. And then there was additional marijuana impact funds that were in there too that relate to other expenses that funded other items. And I don't have that number in front of me. The position about the assistant town administrator, that's an $18,000 net change. I'm going to just get my notes so I speak to it correctly. It's $18,000 net change, I believe. It's moving it's creating the assistant town administrator position. There we go. There we go. It's creating the assistant town administrator position. We'll focus mostly on HR issues. It's going to add 18 hours to the overall office staff in total. So it's a total cost increase due to staffing changes of about $32,000, and that's to create this assistant town administrator, HR resource manager, and add an 18-hour-a-week part-time position, non-benefited part-time position. Those are the two changes.
All right, thank you.
We have nobody in HR right now at all.
Any further discussion of line 1, general government? Line 2, public safety. Line 3, Millis schools. Line, oh, I'm sorry, sir.
Stan Yablonsky, Glen Ellen Boulevard. I'm looking at the page 2 where it gives a summary of all the expenses. And I noticed since 2020 through now proposed 2023, line 4, the Tri-County school budget went up.
Sir, we are addressing line 3
I
at the
know,
moment.
I'm making a relevant
Okay.
statement. Let me finish, please. Don't be rude like last year, okay?
Excuse me, sir. Please show some respect for the moderator.
It goes both ways, okay? You didn't let me finish, so you don't know if the relevancy of my statement or not. So line 4, Tri-County school budget went up less than 10% over the last 3 years. Go back to line 2, the Millis school budget has gone up almost 20% over that same time period. And with that in mind, since 2015, or the last 6 years, the middle school enrollment in Millis has gone down 37%. 37%. The high school enrollment over that same time period has gone down 14%. And yet the Millis school budget goes up 20%. Economically, on paper, if a corporation was run like this, they'd be out of business shortly. There are currently 75 graduating seniors in the high school class. I'm told that the brighter students and the better athletes are leaving Millis school system to pad their college resumes, to go elsewhere, because how can you field a competitive sports team with 75 seniors on down?
Excuse me,
There's
sir,
only
can we
70
come around to make a
juniors
pertinent
next
point
year.
related
There's only
to the
70
budget,
juniors. Less,
please?
right. We're talking about numbers. So why is the budget going up 20% over 5 years and almost 8% this year when there's no students there? They're going down. Economically, it makes no sense. So with that in mind, I'm making a proposal. Instead of raising the budget $1.3 million, I propose we meet somewhere in the middle and we only raise it $700,000, with the difference being made up by the school board and the administrator and whatever has to be done, staff layoffs, to treat us taxpayers a little bit more fairer and better, based solely on the numbers. Thank you.
Excuse me, sir. Are you asking the town meeting to take action here?
I'm putting it out for a vote. I'm making a motion.
Okay, well, then you need to actually state your motion, sir.
My motion is to lower the school budget for fiscal '23 by $700,000. And I need a second.
Okay, we have an amendment on the floor to amend the school budget by $700,000. Any further discussion of the amendment? Not hearing any further discussion, I'll call for a vote on the amendment. All those in favor of decreasing the school budget by $700,000, say aye. Aye. Opposed?
Nay.
Motion does not pass. We are back to the main motion on the floor. Moving on to line 4, Tri-County. Line 5, Public Works. Line 6, Health and Human Services. Line 7, Culture and Recreation. And line 8, Debt Service.
Jim Duffy Exchange, I may have several questions tonight. Do I have to identify myself all
Yes,
the time?
every time,
Okay,
please.
thank you. Just checking. Do we have a projection for future years' debt services projections? That'd be pretty helpful at some point. And is there any initiatives to expedite retiring debt so that we don't have this significant amount of money for debt service? I mean, I understand debt service and all that, but it'd be pretty nice to bring this down if we possibly could somehow, some way.
Mr. Schultz?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Madam Moderator. There are charts. We can provide those at a future date. It might be helpful to include it in the warrant. We can ask the Finance Committee to include that. We have very favorable rates on our bonds, first of all. And the only way that you would add more debt on, any long-term debt, is through an override situation. So there shouldn't be any growth in the debt service other than outside of an override or short-term borrowing for a fire truck or something small. But I think it does make sense to have a chart. We've had those in the past, and we have seen those in our offices. They're just not included here, and I don't have it with me. Oh.
Mr. Kaczynski?
Thank you, Madam Moderator. Just to talk about that a little further, for those that would like to take a look at the current town's debt schedules, they're under the Finance Committee's page under meeting materials. And tomorrow we'll take action to make those more prominent. So those who want to take a look tomorrow can certainly do so. But we do have debt schedules that show when different items of debt are falling off the schedule. So it'll give you an idea of what that schedule looks like and how that may affect future tax bills.
Just a quick follow-up. We have
Excuse
no
me, direct your comments to the moderator, please.
I'm sorry, ma'am. Jim Duffy, Exchange Street. We have or do not have any initiatives to retire debt sooner rather than later? That's a question in general.
Mr. Kaczynski?
Yeah, not at this time.
There's no benefit in doing so?
Well, as was mentioned earlier, we do have very competitive bond rates. We do work very hard to keep those rates at a low level. So at this point, we don't have any plans to move forward on that.
Thank you.
Any further discussion of line 8?
Madam Moderator?
Sir?
Brian Riley. I'm an old senior,
Excuse
and I'm
me,
hard of
can you
hearing,
tell
and
us-
I'm having a lot of trouble.
Excuse me, can you just state your address, sir?
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you.
Could you please state your address?
213 Village Street.
Thank you.
I would ask that everybody use the mic and speak up a little bit so we could all understand. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Any further discussion of line 8? So at this point, I'm going to call for a vote on the entire Article 3.
Jim Duffy, Exchange Street. I actually have a question on the bottom line of $2 million increase. What does that effectively do to our existing tax rate?
Ms. Johnston?
Carol Johnston, the
I'm
Finance
hoping
Director.
And
it's
can you
rate
speak-
neutral or reduced.
Right now, it depends on what town meeting votes.
Okay, I don't think we can hear you.
Put it closer? Okay. It all depends on what town meeting votes as to how the tax rate gets set. I do not set the tax rate. The tax rate is done by a tax recap that goes to the Department of Revenue, and it's based on what the citizens of Millis vote.
I appreciate that, thank you. But my question, I'll try to rephrase it. So
Could you
I think-
speak into the microphone, Mr. Duffy,
I'm sorry.
please?
our tax rate is today, if I understand it, $20 and change. Is that right? Fairly within that range. My question is, if we approve this $2 million increase in budget, is that in fact going to stay at a $20 and change tax rate? Is it going to go to $22? Is it going to go to $19? That's my question.
Ms.
And
Johnston?
my answer is
We don't
that
know.
I do not set the tax rate. That is done at the DOR tax recap that we do, based on what the town of Millis citizens vote. And so the tax rate will be set after that point. But I cannot tell you right now, is that going to add 2 cents, 3 cents? It all depends on what everybody votes for the town.
Yeah, and Madam Moderator?
Mr. Schultz?
Yeah, thank you, Craig Schultz. Setting municipal tax rates are one of the most, I'm a CFO for a fairly large nonprofit, and municipal tax rates are the most complicated thing I've ever seen in my life. I'll just start with that. If you ever want to talk about it, I'd be glad to share my knowledge, but it's going to bore you to death. But there is no way to tell what this is. As Carol's saying, she's an accountant. She's giving you the actual technical answer. This is, the way that rates go up and the costs go up typically is through overrides. This will not be an override that hits anything. This is normal operating procedures. And if you ever want to talk municipal tax rates, it's one of the sad things that I talk about. Okay.
Seeing no further discussion, I'm calling for a vote on Article 3. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? No. Motion passes with a majority. I'm just going to take a quick moment to just acknowledge our other representative who's shown up, Sean Dooley. Oops. Article 4.
Madam Moderator,
Ms. Reyes.
I move that the town vote to transfer from free cash the sum of $100,000 and transfer from sewer enterprise reserves the sum of $5,100 and transfer from water enterprise reserves the sum of $6,400 and transfer from stormwater enterprise reserves $3,500 for a total sum of $115,000 to fund the estimated first-year cost items contained in the contracts between the Town of Millis and SEIU Local 888, Professional Firefighters of Millis Local 4704, and AFS CME Council 93 Local 3901, all to be effective July 1st, 2022.
Second. Article 4 has been moved and seconded. Discussion?
Madam Moderator,
Ms. Reyes.
this article will fund the estimated first-year cost items contained in each respective collective bargaining agreement in the amount of $115,000 for each of the following: Town of Millis and Service Employees International Union, or SEIU, Local 888, Professional Firefighters of Millis Local 4704, and American Federation of State, County, and Municipal Employees, or AFS-CME, Council 93, Local 3901. The Finance Committee voted unanimously to approve this motion.
Any further discussion on Article 4? Yes, ma'am.
Hi, Pat Dyer-Talevi, 52 Bow Street. I just have a question about this water enterprise and sewer enterprise money.
Excuse me. Okay, I'm sorry, go ahead.
And it's used to fund the fire and whatever, other things too, right? I'm not sure.
Mr. Kaczynski?
Thank you, Madam Moderator. Actually, in that article, you'll see that $100,000 is being set aside from general fund or from raise and appropriate, and $15,000 is from water and sewer enterprise funds.
What is?
The water and sewer enterprise funds will only be used to fund any increases for employees within the DPW that work for the water and sewer enterprise, either partial or fully as part of their job duties.
So the people who pay for water and sewer pay for?
They'll pay for any, as far as this article goes, they'll pay for any piece of this that is related to their water and sewer work. So it's only for employees that are listed as and do water and sewer enterprise work.
So all water and sewer funding that's used is to pay for other people's salaries? Not only in this article, but previous article I heard.
I'm sorry, I don't understand the question.
Mr. Schultz?
Yeah, I think some of the confusion, maybe I think there's 3 unions listed here in this one article. So the $15,000 that is referenced in the enterprise fund would be to pay for the salaries for the union members who work in the water and enterprise funds, but only those that work in the enterprise funds. The fire department would not be part of that. SEIU would not be part of that. It's just the people that work in the water and enterprise fund is the $15,000. it gets a little confusing because we had so many contracts come due at once. But this sets aside money for us to be able to negotiate those contracts and fund them should we ratify them.
Okay, so all water and sewer enterprise monies pays for only people who work in sewer and enterprise, no matter what the article is?
Correct. As an enterprise fund, the money can only be used to fund things that relate to that enterprise, sewer and water, stormwater, those areas. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Any further discussion of Article 4? All those in favor of Article 4, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously.
Madam Moderator,
Ms. Garzon.
for Article 5, I move that the town vote to raise and appropriate from sewer department receipts the following sums to operate the sewer enterprise fund beginning July 1st, 2022. For salaries and wages, $293,966. For expenses, $1,472,889. For a total of $1,766,855.
Article 5 has been moved and seconded. Discussion.
Madam Moderator,
Ms. Garzon.
this article appropriates funding necessary to operate the town's sewer service and infrastructure for fiscal year '23. The utility enterprises are funded via user fees based on metered or estimated usage. The budget for the sewer enterprise fund includes personnel costs, equipment and utilities expenses, debt payments for past sewer projects, setting aside $50,000 for a reserve fund, and transfers to the general fund of about $247,000, which is 2.5% more than last year's transfer. The Select Board has been working with Community Paradigm Associates to review direct and indirect costs to our 3 enterprise funds. The findings from this work report overbilling of indirect costs in prior years, with continuing improvement over the past 2 years as more precise time-tracking methodologies are adopted for direct and indirect costs. As this is a work in progress to bring budgeted and actual costs in line with one another, the Select Board chose to increase the allocated cost by 2.5% for fiscal year 2023. They continue to work on a plan to reconcile the actual and budgeted costs for these enterprise funds in future budget years.
Any further discussion of Article 5? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Motion carries.
Madam Moderator,
Ms. Garzon.
for Article 6, I move that the town vote to raise and appropriate from Water Department receipts the following sums to operate the Water Enterprise Fund beginning July 1st, 2022. For salaries and wages, $390,694. For expenses, $2,103,534. For a total of $2,494,228.
Second.
Article 6 has been moved and seconded. Discussion.
Madam Moderator,
Ms. Garzon.
this article, like the previous one, appropriates funding necessary to operate the town's water service and infrastructure for fiscal year '23. The utility enterprise is funded via user fees based on metered or estimated usage. The budget for the Water Enterprise Fund includes personnel costs, equipment and utilities expenses, debt payments for past water projects, setting aside $50,000 for a reserve fund, and transfers to the general fund of about $302,000, which is 2.5% more than last year's transfer, similar to the article that we just discussed.
Any further discussion of Article 6?
Could
Please
you?
state your name
I'm
again.
sorry. Jim Duffy, Exchange Street, Millis. 302,000 gets transferred to the general fund. What the purpose of that is for direct expenses, indirect expenses, indirect expenses? 300,000. What's that, 15%?
That's from Article 3, Madam Moderator.
I'm sorry, Article 6.
So if you, in Article 3, part of the motion was to fund those indirect costs.
Yeah.
So you can see the,
So that's 300, but it's 302,000 out of water to the general fund.
That's correct.
And I'm sorry, I wasn't paying attention to 5, so I'm sure there's some number there too. Thank you.
Any further discussion of Article 6? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Article passes by majority.
Madam Moderator,
Ms. Garzon.
for Article 7, I move that the town vote to raise and appropriate from Stormwater Department receipts the following sums to operate the Stormwater Enterprise Fund beginning July 1st, 2022. For salaries and wages, $106,021. For expenses, $444,252. For a total of $630,273.
Second.
Article 7 has been moved and seconded. Discussion.
Madam Moderator,
Ms. Garzon.
this article will appropriate the funding necessary to operate the town's stormwater systems for fiscal year '23. The stormwater enterprise is funded via rates assessed by square footage of impervious area on each property in Millis. The budget for the stormwater enterprise fund includes personnel costs, equipment and utility expenses, debt payments for past stormwater projects, setting aside a $50,000 reserve fund, and transfers to the general fund of about $161,000, which is 2.5% more than last year's transfer.
Any further discussion of Article 7? All those in favor of Article 7, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? No. Article passes by majority.
Madam Moderator,
Mr. Stedman.
I move that the town vote to approve the items as written in the warrant as consent Article 8.
Second.
Okay, consent Article 8 has been moved and seconded. Discussion.
Madam Moderator,
Mr. Stedman.
these 4 articles require approval by the town. Part 1 approves a salary plan for non-union employees for fiscal year 2023. Number 2 is an administrative detail for the Board of Health that must be approved annually. Number 3, the town has several revolving funds as listed in the warrant. They receive fees and other revenue from various sources and sometimes gifts. This article allows them to spend receipts up to the limits in the warrant without approval from the Select Board or other administrative authority. Number 4, Millis adopted the Community Preservation Act in the Springtown meeting of 2007. The CPA was established funding for the preservation, creation, or acquisition of open spaces, historic preservation, and community housing. Funding comes from 2 sources. The county collects a fee on all land transactions that are recorded, and the state distributes these funds to participating communities. In order to participate in this program, each town must assess a CPA fee as part of the property tax. The CPA surcharge is less than 1% of your property tax bill and is shown separately on that bill. In fiscal year 2022, the town received $89,813 from the state. That amount varies from year to year. Total receipts for fiscal 2022 were $248,578.15. This article allocates the FY 2023 anticipated funds to various accounts in accordance with the statute, which requires minimum funding of 10% of the revenue to open spaces, historic preservation, and community housing. As of January 31st, the balance in the various community preservation funds was just over $1 million, of which $29,000 was outstanding for open items.
Thank you. This is a consent article, which means it's voted without debate. So what I will do is I will read each of these. If 7 people would like to debate that or put a hold, we will then deal with it separately. If we don't get that threshold, then we will vote this article in its entirety. So the first part of it is the Schedule A salary plan. The Annual Board of Health Appointing Authority is number 2. Number 3 is the revolving fund expenditures. And number 4 is the annual CPA expenditures and administrative funding.
I have a question on number 3.
I'm sorry, sir, unless we get enough people to stand and want to hold, this is voted as an entirety.
Can I ask a question on number 3?
No, this is not a debatable motion. If we can get 7 people who care to hold number 3 and we debate it separately, yes, but no. Otherwise, no, sir. Sorry. Okay, so we're going to put Article 3 on, the sections 3 on hold, and we're going to vote 1, 2, and 4. So this is voting parts 1, 2, and 4. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Article Part 1, 2, and 4 are passed by majority vote. Article, the section revolving funds expenditures. So, sir?
Good evening. Tom Stanis, Orchard Street, 334 Orchard Street. Number 3, I didn't quite hear on, is this the open amount that can be spent by these divisions without approval?
Madam Moderator,
Mr. Stedman?
to the extent that the fees, they can spend the fees, if the fees exceed these amounts, they cannot spend them without approval. So they can only spend the fees and gifts that they receive, but up to that amount. I hope that clarifies it.
Yeah, because I do have a question on the 360 and the school transportation fund of $500,000. If I read this correct, and what you're telling me is, if all of a sudden you need $400,000 or $450,000 under the school transportation fund, it's immediately approved without any discussions.
Mr. Stedman?
I'll defer to Ms. Johnston if she's willing.
Ms. Johnston?
In the school business manager, finance director can correct me if I'm wrong on this, but right now, both of those items are revolving funds where they receive fees into the fund, and they cannot put the funds in deficit. So they can't spend more than they receive in, but at any point in time, they may have that amount of money that has to flow through the system. Is that correct, Terry?
That's correct, okay. All right. Is the
Sir,
360...
please
oh,
direct your comments to the moderator.
I'm sorry. The 360 and the 500,000, that, I guess, has been put in there because in the past, that's basically what we would need for the year? Or is that just a random number? Is that drawn as a random number?
Mr. Schultz?
Yeah. These are the school lunch
Please
fees.
speak into the
I'm sorry.
microphone. Sorry.
And Terry, correct me if I'm wrong, but the school lunch fees would be the money that we receive for the kids buying their lunches. Is that correct? This isn't money we put in from the town. This is fees people pay to these funds for services. Then those services turn around and spend that money out to cover the cost of the services.
Okay.
So there's no tax dollars going into these.
Into those
this
funds.
is non-tax funds.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any further discussion of number 3 of Article 8? Seeing no further discussion, all those in favor of number 3 of Article 8, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Passes unanimously.
Madam Moderator,
Mr. Laura.
I move that the town vote to appropriate the sum of $21,035.16 from the Community Preservation Open Space Recreation Reserve Fund for soundproofing for the pickleball tennis courts.
Second.
Article 9 has been moved and seconded. Discussion.
Madam Moderator,
Mr. Laura.
the town has received several letters from residents and abutters of the new-built pickleball courts In the spring of 2021, residents and abutters of the facility met with the Select Board, Recreational Department, town to express concerns over the noise these courts are causing, prompting research into the matter. During the research, to mitigate the issue, the town proposed several options. After reviewing these options, the decision was made to use a material called Acoustablock. Acoustablock is a heavy mineral field viscoelastic polymer sound deadening material. It is installed on the court fence with grommets. Testimonies show it can reduce the sound up to 50%. In addition, the town will provide, separate from this article, the town will provide landscaping of arborvitaes and blue spruce trees to add another layer of mitigation and beautification. The information was proposed to the neighborhood and received with positive response. The amount of $21,035.16 was recommended for approval by the Community Preservation Committee on March 24th, 2022. The Finance Committee recommends approval for this article.
Just to reiterate, the Millis Community Preservation Committee, at an open public meeting held on Thursday, March 24th, 2022, at the Veterans Memorial Building, voted to recommend approval of this article. Any further discussion of Article 9?
Madam Moderator, Jane Harden, 3 Tuckerdale Way. I just have a couple of questions about this. I'm not dismissing the annoyance to the neighbors, but I'd like to know, was this something to do with time of day? You know, in other words, if the court's being used after a certain time that was more disruptive, it just seems like that's a lot of money when we're already paying, you know. I'm just sort of interested as to why the complaints came forward, how many families were complaining, and that sort of justification. Thank you very much.
Madam Moderator.
Mr. Lohr.
I don't know the specific numbers in terms of the complaints. However, with the abutters and the activity level of pickleball, as some of you may know, it produces a loud sound when it gets hit. It caused for a discussion with the town and the select board to put it up and to look into it.
Ms. Underhill.
If I could just add a little bit more to that. The pickleball noise is apparently extremely disruptive, and even though we did take some steps to reduce the amount of time and how late at night that the courts were open, there was still a very loud noise that was very disruptive to the entire neighborhood. So looking for ways to mitigate that, this seemed to be the best and most effective course of action to be able to reduce that noise by 50%.
Sir.
Bob Zalvin, 135 Middlesex Street. I'm just curious if the effectiveness of the soundproofing is such that the current 8 p.m. deadline would be moved further back or eliminated.
I don't think that's really germane to this discussion, but does somebody want to answer it, Mr. Stedman?
No, but I would like to add that this is being funded by the Community Preservation Fund. It does not affect the operating budget or taxes. The CPA funds are designated for open spaces, and this protects an open space that is used for recreation and minimizes the disruption to neighbors.
Would there be decibel level checks before and after?
They haven't been installed yet, so we can't measure it afterwards.
Thank you.
Yeah, I want to talk, yeah. Kathy Smith, 28 McCabe Ave. I am a resident, I'm in a butter. The pickleball courts are used 7 days a week, 12 hours a day. It's a very popular sport. The noise is not due just to Millis, it's a nationwide problem. We do listen to it, the noise. We listen to kids play baseball, soccer, softball. This is a totally different noise. It's extremely disruptive to the entire neighborhood. We have people who work nights, we have young children in the neighborhood. We're just asking for some type of relief. We've been working with the Select Board and the Recreation Department for over 2 years to get some type of relief. and this is through community preservation.
Hi, Jen Donahue, 89 Exchange Street. I have a question just for the soundproofing, which I'm a little familiar with. Is that a security issue possibility that you can't see what's going on? Because I feel like it's too much blockage, and I would maybe go for more like some trees, arborvitaes, or something that would maybe absorb the sound and not block views. Thank you.
Ms. Underhill.
Thank you for that. We have had some discussions about the security piece to that, and we have had the police weigh in on any concerns with that, and we are looking at hopefully a grant very soon to be able to install appropriate surveillance to be able to monitor that area.
Any further discussion of Article 9?
Thank you, Scott Fusey, 411 Union Street.
Can you speak into the...
Scott Fusey, 411 Union Street. Thank you, Madam Moderator. Just to echo what the previous speaker said, that would be my concern too. I'm not against the soundproofing, but I want to make sure the police department has line of sight to be able to see in there in case there's an issue. A lot of money was spent on these courts, but I think for them to be able to see in there if something's going on, or if there's vandalism or people in there after hours that shouldn't be in there, they have the ability to be able to see in there. So thank you.
Sir.
Richard Nichols, 47 Grove Street, Millis. I framed and built the dugout for the high school. And I can tell you right now that when I was framing, I could hear the pickleball court all the way over as I was running my power equipment. So there is some validity to the way that sound travels. Thank you.
Gina Vincent, 20 McCabe Ave. I too am in a butter. And in the evening, when you'd like to sit out in your backyard and enjoy the summer, all you hear is ba-boink, 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 ba-boink. And it really is quite annoying. And you really can't relax. You've been at work all day. All you want to do is enjoy your yard. So please, we're telling the truth here.
Mr. Kaczynski.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. Just to touch upon the security concerns a little more, I have had extensive discussions with the police chief in regards to this. This is an issue that's been researched, and the plan is, and we will have security cameras placed in that area that will fully cover that area so that there'll be a direct link to dispatch, and we're going to actually improve the security coverage in that area at the same time that this soundproofing would be installed. So we have thought of those concerns, and they will be addressed.
Any further discussion of Article 9? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Passes unanimously.
Madam Moderator.
Mr. Stedman.
I move that the town vote to dismiss Article 10.
Second.
Article 10 is, a motion to dismiss Article 10 has been moved and seconded. Discussion.
Ms. Moderator.
Mr. Stedman.
Full funding for this article has not been secured at this time. Therefore, the Finance Committee recommends dismissal.
So we have dismissal of Article 10 in front of us. Any further discussion? All those in favor of dismissing Article 10, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Passes unanimously.
Madam Moderator.
Mr. Stedman.
I move that the town vote to transfer the sum of $16,900 from the Community Preservation Open Space Reserve Fund for the Oak Grove Farm Trail Improvement Project.
Second.
Article 11 has been moved and seconded. Discussion.
Madam Moderator.
Mr. Stedman.
The trails around the perimeter of Oak Grove get a lot of use despite being in poor condition. There are several places that are nearly always wet, have exposed roots or rocks, or have steep slopes. These funds will permit the Oak Grove Commission to create trails that are more user-friendly and safer. It is a legitimate use of CPC funds. Using these funds does not affect the annual budget or the tax rate, and the Community Preservation Fund has adequate funds available to to create proper trails and fund this article.
The Millis Community Preservation Committee, at an open public meeting held Thursday, March 24th, 2022, at the Veterans Memorial Building, voted to recommend approval of this article. Any further discussion of Article 11?
Madam Moderator, Chris Maltinsky, 431 Exchange Street. The question I have is, we just appropriated $17,419 for trail maintenance on the budget, so I'm assuming this is another line item, so it'd be a fairly large addition to Oak Grove. And although I'd love the park, I just question the validity of having both.
Mr. Stedman.
There are two factors here. One is the CPC can only fund improvements. They cannot fund maintenance. And in that amount that is in the, that we discussed earlier, there are three components to that. I'm going a little bit by memory here, but there's $9,555, as I recall, to maintain the trails. There's money in there for new soccer nets, and there's a $1,600 for something else that I don't recall. So it's not all for trails, but those are maintenance type items, so they cannot be funded by the CPC.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Moderator, Dave Warner, Oak Grove Farm Commission. Just to clarify Mr. Stedman's remarks, the $1,600 is for improvement for cross-country markings for the cross-country meets that happen at Oak Grove. So of the money appropriated for trails, $9,600, there is $26,000 something total for trail improvement for this year, and that will only begin to cover the worst places.
Thank you. Any further discussion of Article 11? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Passes unanimously. Article 12.
Madam Moderator,
Ms. Reyes?
I move that the town vote to transfer from free cash the sum of $17,800 to conduct the FY23 recertification process.
Second.
Article 12 has been moved and seconded. Discussion.
Madam Moderator,
Ms. Reyes?
every 5 years, Massachusetts cities and towns are required to go through a recertification audit by the Massachusetts Department of Revenue's Bureau of Local Assessment for real and personal property, which takes place over the course of 2 fiscal years. This audit is completed in order to ensure the proposed assessment values were derived utilizing a methodology based on generally accepted mass appraisal practices, are supported with current market value evidence, and are uniformly and equitably applied to all property. This article is funding the second half of the state recertification audit in the amount of $17,800, of which the first half of funding was approved at the May 2021 Millis Town Meeting and commenced in FY22. The Finance Committee voted unanimously to approve this motion.
Any further discussion of Article 12? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Passes unanimously.
Madam Moderator,
Mr. Berube.
I move that the town vote to transfer from free cash the sum of $169,209 and transfer from Sewer Enterprise Reserve the sum of $31,629 and transfer from Water Enterprise Reserve the sum of $31,629 and transfer from Stormwater Enterprise Reserve the sum of $31,628 for a total sum of $264,095 to fund the following capital items. For the Police and Fire Department, Public Safety Radio Console Update, $112,580. Emergency Management Department, Public Safety Radio Backup Generators for $25,000. DPW and Enterprises, a Chevy Silverado with plow, $54,416. DPW and Enterprises, a skid steer, in the amount of $52,699. DPW and Enterprises message board for $19,400 for a total of $264,095. And to authorize the Select Board to dispose of old vehicles or equipment by outright sale, trade, auction, or otherwise, and that the proceeds from such disposal be applied to the purchase price of the vehicle or equipment.
Second. Article 13 has been moved and seconded. Discussion.
Madam Moderator,
Mr. Berube.
the Capital Planning Committee, whose members are listed in your packet, you can please, if you would refer to page 42, 43, 44, 45 for the Capital Planning Committee's report. Consists of several members. Mr. John Barry is our chair. I'm a member of that committee. Mr. John Corcoran is an at-large member. Mr. James McCaffrey is an at-large member. Mr. Mark Conroy is a school committee representative and member, and Ms. Erin Underhill is the Select Board's representative and member. That committee met to evaluate many projects and capital requests submitted by all of the town's departments. This cycle for this town meeting, we evaluated 12 different projects which are listed on page 44. And we evaluated all of them independent of cost. We evaluated them for criticality of need, consistency or congruence with comprehensive plans within the town, for potential to reduce operating costs or to generate revenue, for overall public benefit, and obviously first and foremost safety and health. And so those projects, 12 projects, were prioritized, and they are summarized on page 42 into 3 different categories: highest priorities, medium priorities, and lower priorities. 12 projects in the amount of $761,194. And they were communicated to the Select Board and to the Finance Committee for consideration. And as with all things town budget, whether we're talking about capital purchases or initiatives and requests for operating dollars for town meeting consideration, there are always trade-offs, and there's rarely enough money to get all of the things that the town needs. In fact, I would refer you to the table that's on page 45, which is essentially a summary of all of the projects that are the capital needs of the town for the next 10 years, as well as a number of projects that have an indefinite timeline. And those projects of all the groups amount to essentially $78 million worth of requirements. They include wholesale replacements of buildings, vehicles in out years, computer equipment, you name it, it's there. I wouldn't stand or sit before you and tell you that it's an exhaustive in every need that the town has, but the Capital Planning Committee has done an extensive amount of work to collect requirements, as have the town departments, to put a plan together so that the town can forecast its capital needs. And so in summary, those capital needs, the ones that were evaluated for funding and appropriation at this meeting tonight, are those 5 projects. Typically, the town has a little bit more in the way of capital resources for funding of projects. This particular budget cycle, some of that free cash, which is called, it's a bad name for it. I like to call it discretionary dollars for purchase of some lower cost projects and capital items that don't require long-term lending. We're down to $264,095, and a lot of that's because, if you recall, when I spoke on the operating budget, there was a gap in the operating budget request from the school to fund special education needs, and thus there's the reason why there's not quite as much in the way of free cash this year. So the Finance Committee voted to recommend approval of this article.
Further discussion of Article 13. All those in favor of Article 13, please say Aye. All those opposed? Passes unanimously. Article 14,
Madam Moderator,
Ms. McGinnis.
I move that the town appropriate $500,000 to pay additional costs of making water treatment plant improvements at the DeAngelis Water Treatment Plant to address excessive levels of PFAS identified in wells 1 and 2, including the payment of all costs incidental and related thereto, which amount shall be expended in addition to the $5,600,000 previously appropriated for this project under Article 4 of the warrant at the last fall annual town meeting, and that to meet this appropriation, the treasurer, with the approval of the select board, is authorized to borrow said amount under and pursuant to GL Chapter 44, Section 8, parens 4, parens, or any other enabling authority, and to issue bonds or notes of the town therefore. All or any portion of the borrowing authorized by this vote may be obtained through the Massachusetts Clean Water Trust. The Select Board is authorized to apply for, accept, and expend any state or federal aid that is or may become available for these purposes, and the total amount authorized to be borrowed by this vote shall be reduced to the extent of any federal or state grants received on account of this project.
Second. Article 14 has been moved and seconded. Discussion.
Madam Moderator,
Ms. McGinnis.
this article increases the previously authorized funding by $500,000 to construct the DeAngelis Water Treatment Plant for PFAS mitigation by restoring the contingency based on construction bids received. Bids received were higher than anticipated. Thank you.
Any further discussion of Article 14? This does need a 2/3 majority vote to pass. All those in favor of Article 14, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Article passes unanimously.
Madam Moderator,
Ms. Garzon.
for Article 15, I move that the town vote to transfer from free cash the sum of $160,000 for the design and construction of sidewalks and roads.
Second.
Excuse me, before we move on, I just want to make sure that I've declared a 2/3 vote on Article 14, that it passed by the 2/3 majority. Excuse me. Sorry, Ms. Garzon, sorry for interrupting you.
It's okay. So I did make the motion.
Great. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, it's been, Article 15 has been moved and seconded. Discussion.
Madam Moderator,
Ms. Garzon.
so this article would fund engineering and surveying services for the design of adding sidewalks on the west side of Plain Street, and would provide funds for the maintenance of roads throughout the town of Millis in the amount of $160,000.
Any further discussion of Article 15?
My name is Robert Herbzuber, 29 Jameson. I just have a couple of questions. Is there any state funding coming for the road repairs?
Ms. Johnston?
Yes, yes, the town receives Chapter 90 money, and that would be added to this money would be added to that in order to do a lot of work for the road system in FY '23.
And do you have any idea approximately how much that would be at this time?
Excuse me, sir, please
Oh, I'm
direct
sorry.
your questions to the moderator.
I'm sorry, would you know offhand how much it would be coming from the state?
Ms. Johnston?
I believe the amount, and the DPW director's here, he can confirm it with me. I believe it's $270,000 for fiscal year 2023.
Okay,
Mr. McKay, would you
Oh.
like to add to something there? Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. I'm your DPW Director, Jim McKay. So Chapter 90 balance of FY '22 is $153,356. Town meeting balance of FY '22 is $19,820. The allotment for this year's FY '23 is $272,204. And we just received a notification yesterday and today. It's the winter wrap That's what they're calling it, the state. It's an addition of $169,556. And if this goes through tonight, if this article goes through, $160,000, that should give us approximately, for paving this year, $774,936.
Thank you, Mr. McKay.
One
Sir?
last question, Madam
Sir,
Moderator.
go ahead.
In terms of repairing the roads, I know this is, the first thing it said is sidewalks, engineering, and so forth. Are there any plans to do something about, and we all know it's a fact, right? I'm not saying anything new, to repair some of the really, really bad roads in town?
Mr. McKay.
Madam Moderator, we will have a presentation for the Select Board's approval at their 16th meeting, is that correct? The 16th meeting. We're putting it out to bid. We already have a list of roads that have been approved that are on our every year list of roads that need to be repaired, and we'll have that presentation for the 16th.
Any further discussion of Article 15? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Article 16.
Madam Moderator,
Ms. McGinnis.
I move that the town vote to transfer from free cash the sum of $50,000 for tree removal maintenance.
Second.
Article 16 has been moved and seconded. Discussion.
Madam Moderator,
Ms. McGinnis.
this article will appropriate $50,000 for the continued removal of dangerous trees throughout town. There is $31,000 remaining from the funds appropriated at the November 2021 town meeting. The Millis tree warden has jurisdiction on determining what trees are on town property and whether or not the tree poses a hazard and needs to be removed and/or trimmed. The DPW has a list of residents' requests for the removal of town trees. In conjunction with the town tree warden and DPW director, Eversource provides a plan to trim trees dangerously close to power lines. The daily cost for the machine required to take down trees is $7,500. Typically, the stumps of the trees removed are not ground out due to the expense to do so, and that is about $500 to $600 a day. The town has improved its plan for tree removal in the last 5 years, and we have made good progress on getting rid of several of the dangerous trees. It is hoped that in the future, less funding for tree removal will be needed.
Any further discussion of Article 16?
Madam Moderator, Nathan Maltinsky, Exchange Street. I commend the tree warden's efforts on removing the trees and making a big improvement around town. But I think that there's still a big hazard when these trees, especially on maybe Orchard Street or some of the narrow streets, that there's roughly 2 feet of stump left. And the roads are so narrow and people have to navigate those roads. And I don't know what's a bigger hazard, having a full tree there or a stump. And I believe that one option is to make an effort to remove the trees, stumps that are on the narrow roads, or when they do cut them, that they cut them as flush to the ground to make less of a hazard. I've seen, working in another town, I've seen this happen and where people have hit them and done tremendous damage to their vehicle where they actually hit them and flipped the cars over instead of doing the head-on to a tree. So one suggestion to our fabulous tree warden, that maybe he consider this to be done in the future. Thank you.
Madam Moderator, Edward Ginn, 24 Glen Ellen. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
I am confused by the discussion. I don't know whether or not the stumps are included for removal or they are not. For as far as I'm concerned, they're a real danger.
Madam Moderator,
Ms. McGinnis.
I'm going to yield to our tree warden.
Is that our marvelous tree
Marvelous tree warden.
Fabulous, excuse me.
Fabulous.
Ms. Moderator, this is your fabulous tree warden.
Please
clarify.
just identify yourself.
Brutus Skinner, 7 Blueberry Lane, Millis, Mass. Yes, the stumps have come up, but I think everybody understands that the priority is the tree, to get the tree down before it does fall and impact, take out utilities, potentially hurt vehicles or personnel. So that's what we've really been focusing on. I would like to get stumps out. The best way to do it is to grind them, and there's a cost associated with that. But the priority has been to actually remove the hazard tree. And hopefully going forward, I made a presentation to FinCom. We're probably going to have I think a lot of folks saw, we had the large trees, the large company come in and take down, we've taken down thousands of trees in Millis, and we're pretty close to getting that work done. So eventually we're going to go forward, we're going to start looking back, and we can actually look at removing some stumps and then also doing some further maintenance so this doesn't happen again. So that's what we're looking to do.
Thank you. Any further discussion of Article 16? Sir.
Madam Moderator, I hate to bother you again, but I'm still confused. Are we included in the budget any money to remove the stumps or not?
Mr. Tree Warden.
I'm sorry, no. There is no appropriated funds. The intention for this funding is to remove the trees, the large trees that can cause potential damage, but not the stumps at this time.
Thank you. Any further discussion of Article 16?
Madam Moderator, Brian Riley, 213 Village Street. Just a question. Is it possible that the town has this budget for removing trees that it could open up to residents of the town who also have trees on their property that need to be removed, but may be reluctant to do so? And by creating a pool, you might get the job done less expensively.
Mr. Kaczynski? Oh, Mr. Tree Warden.
Madam Moderator, as like any services the town performs on any level, the tree company that's coming in, they are working, we're getting off the state bid list. That's through procurement law. So we couldn't use them or anybody else to go on private property. With that said, any resident could contact the tree company while they're there, because obviously logistically they're there and they might want to, do it. But the town cannot act as a mediator between the costs associated with public and private work.
Thank you. Any further discussion of Article 16? All those in favor of Article 16, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? No. Passes with a majority. Article 17.
Madam Moderator,
Ms. Reyes.
I move that the town vote to borrow under the provisions of MGL Chapter 44 or any other enabling authority a sum of $69,900 for a new lease purchases for computers for the Millis schools.
Second.
Article 17 has been moved and seconded. Any discussion?
Madam Moderator,
Ms. Reyes.
this article is authorizing the town to enter into a new 3-year lease for iPads for Millis kindergarten and first grade students. The total cost for the first year is $23,300 and is included in Article 3 FY23 operating budget. The second and third year costs are also each $23,300 respectively. These iPads will be available for purchase for $1 after the completion of the third year. The Finance Committee voted unanimously to approve this motion.
This motion will take a 2/3 majority. Any further discussion of Article 17?
Madam Moderator, Richard Harlow, Orchard Street. Question is, why isn't this in the school budget?
Ms. Johnston.
The dollars to pay for the lease is actually in the budget for the first year. This is just giving authorization for the school to go and negotiate and enter into the lease agreement.
Madam Moderator?
Mr. Harlow.
Is this line item unique? Because I don't remember seeing other items for computer purchases for the school system.
This, apparently, from what I understand, it's always been standing that in order for you to enter into a 3-year lease, you would have to get town meeting approval.
Mr. Schultz.
Yeah, as maybe we're not, it's not quite clear. This involves no dollars, but the town can't borrow money without the town meeting authorizing it to do so, as Carol just said. So this article, and not to digress, so don't yell at me, the next one will be authorizing leases, but the payment of those is included in the operating budget already. So this allows us to borrow the money, but the money is paid for through the operating budget, which we approved in Article 3 a long time ago, a very long time ago.
So I think the answer is that if the school needs to borrow money of any sort, it has to come to the town meeting for approval first.
Madam Moderator,
Mr. Berube.
I'm going to further try to amplify the discussion. So state guidelines require us to treat entrance into a lease as a lending, even though there will be a purchase of $1, at the end of the lease for $1, and it would be ownership. So you will note that in Article 3, it's a simple majority that's required to allocate the funds for these leases. This particular motion requires a 2/3 standard, so there's a higher standard for the town to approve the entrance into the lease or to take a lending. However, it won't be a lending. There will be money allocated. It's a 3-year lease, so a third of the total value of the lease over 3 years will be put into the budget in subsequent years. I'm sorry for the inside baseball response, but
that's the school budget, not the town
yes,
budget.
Sir.
Yes, yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion of Article 17? All those in favor of Article 17, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes by a 2/3 majority. Article 18.
Madam Moderator,
Ms. Reyes.
I move that the town vote to borrow under the provisions of MGL Chapter 44 or any other enabling authority the sum of $104,000 for the lease/purchases of 2 police cruisers.
Second.
Article 18 has been moved and seconded. Discussion.
Madam Moderator,
Ms. Reyes.
this article is authorizing the town to enter into a 3-year lease to purchase agreement for 2 new replacement police cruisers in the amount of $104,000. The first-year cost of the lease is $34,667 and is included in Article 3 FY23 operating budget. The second and third-year costs are also each $34,667 respectively. The cruisers will be available for purchase for $1 after the completion of the 3rd year. The cost of the vehicles includes the prisoner transport containment and lighting, the lettering, computer-aided dispatch software, records management system CJIS, printers, radios, and other specialized equipments are purchased separately in the amount of $13,500, which are paid for by grants, which Chief Savoyer secures on behalf of the department for each replacement cruiser. The current wait time for these new cruisers is between 6 and 8 months. Just a little background. When Chief Savoyer was appointed as chief of the police in 2016, he implemented a fleet replacement plan which would ensure that the cruisers would be replaced every 7 years in order to avoid costly and out-of-warranty repair bills for the town. At the time of implementation, it was determined it would take 5 years for all of the current cruisers to be cycled out and replaced. That year, 4 cruisers were replaced. In an effort to avoid having to replace 4 cruisers at one time in FY24 and to continue to maintain the fleet replacement schedule, the department is requesting these 2 replacement cruisers in FY23 and then 2 in FY24. The Finance Committee voted unanimously to approve this motion.
This will take a 2/3 majority. Any further discussion of Article 18? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Passes by a 2/3 majority. Article 19.
Madam Moderator,
Mr. Underhill.
I move that the town vote to establish a town administrator bylaw as written in the warrant.
Second.
Article 19 has been moved and seconded. Discussion.
Madam Moderator,
Mr. Underhill.
all of the changes contained in this article were included in the Charter Review Committee's recommendation for a charter change. This is only a general bylaw change and does not contain some of the recommended changes from the Charter Review Committee, since those changes, in order to have legal effect, would have required a charter change. The article proposes these changes to the bylaw instead of the town charter because it is easier to change in the future with a simple majority vote at town meeting as the needs of the town change down the road. These powers and responsibilities do not change the fact that the town administrator is answerable to the select board. The reason for this change is to define the exact responsibilities of the town administrator, as the current position is not well defined within the town charter. The article also proposes a formal process for an acting town administrator in the event of an absence of the town administrator for under 20 days, and an interim town administrator in the event of the resignation or termination of the town administrator. These changes will allow greater flexibility and service to the people of Millis by the town administrator. The Finance Committee recommends approval of this article.
Any further discussion of Article 19?
Madam Moderator?
Mr. Schultz.
Yeah, I'd like to offer a friendly amendment to Article 19. There's a duplication. Section 1, item H, and Section 1, item N are identical. So I would suggest removing item N, renumbering the last two items, O and P, to N and O. It's a clerical error. That Section H got included twice, basically.
So we have a motion to amend the article on the floor.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion of the amendment? All those in favor of amending the article as stated, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Amendment passes unanimously. Further discussion of Article 19.
Madam Moderator.
Sir.
Jim Duffy, Exchange Street. If I understand this, these duties are being performed by the town administrator today. It's just just writing them down for posterity. Is that accurate?
Mr. Schultz.
Yeah, Madam Moderator, this defines the job that he is basically doing now. Without having we're one of the towns that does not have a very clear description of what our town administrator does in any of our legal documents. This codifies it. It makes it something that the town's responsible for instead of just directly answering to the select board. There's now legal established roles and responsibilities that he has to maintain.
Ma'am.
Kathy Lannon, 60 Street. I have another housekeeping change. The first paragraph, the third line, is given responsibility by this charter. Shouldn't that be by this bylaw?
Yes.
So are you suggesting a friendly amendment? Ma'am, are you?
Yes, number one. Number two, I don't have any concerns about the content of this bylaw.
Well, actually, let's deal with the
Do that
amendment,
one at a
the
time?
friendly amendment first.
Second.
So the amendment's been moved and seconded to change the word "by this charter" to "by this bylaw." Is that correct, sir? All those in favor of that amendment?
Discussion.
Discussion, sorry. Any discussion of that amendment?
Madam
Okay.
Moderator,
Mr. Burbank.
can we get a quick minute to review that and perhaps have town council opine?
Sure. Pretty simple.
Are we taking a quick minute, or are we having town council opine?
Question for you.
Okay, Mr. Hallerman, if you don't mind. Town Council Jay Tallerman.
I think the friendly amendment should probably read by the charter and this bylaw, so that it references both, because the charter does provide some authority. This charter was probably a pulled over when we were thinking of making some more global amendments. So that would make it consistent with some other provisions too. So I would say by the charter and this bylaw.
Are you amenable to that friendly amendment?
Absolutely.
Any further discussion of the amendment? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? The amendment passes unanimously. Now, ma'am.
Okay, so my second concern is not about this, it's about possible future ramifications of the wording, specifically of B. And it says, in appropriate circumstances, it can remove, subject to ratification by the select board, all department heads, officers, and employees. I actually read the charter because of comments made at the last year's town meeting. And officers by the charter are defined as any elected official. So that is a broadening of the scope for the poor town administrator that already had all of his work defined. And my concern is, was that the intent? And unintentionally in the future, that allows the select board to remove elected officials in appropriate circumstances, which is extremely vague.
Again, I'm going to defer to our town council, Jay Tallerman.
So I wouldn't read it that way, and I don't believe that there's any definition in the charter.
It's on page 5 of the town charter.
Right. I don't believe that definition applies universally in the way that you're suggesting it does. I'd also suggest that would be against the law. So it couldn't be done, and the state law would supersede. So there's a specific process or processes to change an elected official to an appointed official. Also, it is impossible under Massachusetts law for anyone to remove a elected official except through a legitimate recall process or some other special act provision. So I would not take the position that the town administrator has those duties. I'd also suggest to you that section B, as you've cited, is really very limited in scope because most of the authority, the same authority there, is reserved to the select board under the charter itself, including the appointment of boards and commissions and committees.
So what is your definition of an officer in this bylaw?
I understand the confusion as to why someone might consider an officer a member of a board or an elected official, but I think that the term could be used interchangeably. Regardless, as I've opined, there is no way that either the select board or the town administrator could remove an elected official. It's just not allowable under law, and the state law would always supersede a charter provision.
So I guess.
Or a bylaw provision.
So what is an officer of the town under this bylaw? That's just my simple question.
As used in this section, it would not be considered to be board members or commission members at all, nor could it include elected officials because there are other provisions made for their election under the charter and under law. But as I mentioned before, officers that are, or employees or board members, there are specific provisions for their appointment and removal by the select board and the appointed side. The provisions of the charter with respect to elected officials are elsewhere in the charter and in state law, so they couldn't be considered to be those.
I'm still confused.
Okay, so they're not.
This is simple. What is an officer?
So first of all, it's not a defined term here. The fact that both may be considered officers does not change the fact that only those officers, and under section B, it suggests that only the officers where provisions are not otherwise made by this charter or bylaws or under the town administrator's jurisdiction, and there are other provisions made for such officers that would be elected.
I'm still confused. Anyone else?
Ms. Underhill?
Maybe a clarification, if I'm right, which I could be corrected. I think here maybe we're talking about appointed officers rather than elected.
Which you already have the authority to remove them.
That's
Correct?
correct. Yes.
And this is codifying those responsibilities and those authorities.
But that's already codified, that the select board can, that's already elsewhere.
Some of this is a little repetitive in that some of it's already stated in the charter. Some of it is being repeated within this bylaw, but there's other things in the bylaw that make it easier to change versus the charter, which is why it's being approached this way.
But your ability...
Excuse me, ma'am, could you
I'm
direct
sorry,
the moderator?
but as I understand it, the select board's ability to remove people they've appointed, they already have that authority. Not in the town charter, but in their regulations, correct?
Jay Tallery, Town
So the power to appoint by the select board carries with it the power to remove under Massachusetts law. So the charter provision that allows the select board for broad appointment authority also allows for them in appropriate circumstances to do removal. That's implicit in that. Section B that's in Article 19 states to appoint and in appropriate circumstances to remove, subject to ratification by the select board, all department heads, officers, and employees, and here's the important language, for whom no other method of selection is provided by the charter and this bylaw. The charter has provisions for elected officials. That's already stated in the charter. So the for whom no other provisions is the exception. So that this provision couldn't possibly apply to elected officials because elected officials are already referenced in Article 4, subsection 2 of the charter, which supersedes the bylaw.
Would it be possible to change it to appointed officers to make that clearer?
It's possible. It wouldn't change a thing legally, but it's certainly possible.
Are you suggesting another friendly amendment?
If the select board agrees with me, this is...
I think it's fine the way it is, but also a friendly amendment to add the word appointed doesn't change the intent of it, doesn't change the functionality of it at all. So if you'd like to make the motion, or if you'd like me to, either way.
Feel free.
I'd like to make a motion to amend subsection 1, part B, the word officers to read appointed officers.
Second.
So there's a motion on the floor to amend. Any discussion of that amendment? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes by majority. Any further discussion?
Yes, I'm so sorry.
19.
But in two of the duties, the words at the end of it say or...
Can you please reference the particular sections that you're
Okay, so
referring
in
to?
section I and in section P, at the end of those duties, it says or otherwise. I don't understand what, or otherwise what?
Bylaws or certain codes, votes in the town meeting or votes in the select board.
Sorry.
So our first issue is that I and P are actually the same, so we need to make an amendment to remove one of them?
No, no.
Oh.
The last two words in both of those sections, I don't know what they mean, or otherwise.
No, they're not the same, it's just got the last.
Mr. Schultz?
They both just
Yeah,
have.
Madam Moderator?
Mr.
I think the question is, and I'm not a lawyer, I'm a
Me neither.
finance guy. So this was reviewed and written by lawyers. So I guess the question to town council is, do we need the last two words of section
Yes.
P and section
I.
Mr. Tallerman?
So I
Okay.
do think we need the or otherwise because
Excuse me, please. Thank you. Mr. Tallerman speaking.
Thank
you.
some of these officers might have duties that are inherent in a statute or another enactment, and it's important to have their authority not be limited by a more strict reading of this bylaw. So it's an attempt to be thorough so that we're not limiting what they do.
And Madam Moderator?
Mr. Schultz?
There's another duplicate entry. Thank you. I and P.
Well, the new O? you
The
mean?
new O
Yes.
are identical. I'd say I make a motion to remove the new O.
Oh, I missed that one.
Okay, so we have a motion on the floor to remove the new O. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Passes unanimously. Okay, so now we've struck that. Any further discussion?
If the select board's okay with or otherwise,
So-
I don't understand it still.
I'm okay with the
Okay,
lawyer.
thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Angelo?
Jim Angelo, 34 Lavender Street. With all these new supposed duties and new rules and all this stuff, is this going to be covered in the $172,000 we make now, or are we talking pay raises?
Mr. Schultz?
This would not change the pay rate at all. This
Okay.
just makes us a modern town with things defined in the proper places.
And second question, Madam Moderator. He goes down for the count for some reason. Now we got an acting town administrator or an interim town administrator. How much is that going to cost us? What's the price for that?
Madam Moderator,
Mr. Schultz?
we've had to bring one in when Charlie Aspinwall left. It's what the market charges. I mean, there's no, if we have to bring somebody in long-term, if we have the assistant town manager that we've just made the personnel changes for, possibly they could step in, but we would have to see how long the duration of the departure is, how long it needs to be, and then it'd be a market-based
So these
situation.
have no set,
Sir?
these have no set values? I mean, it's going to be...
As Mr. Schultz stated, it will be the
Yeah,
market
I'm
if
just
that
asking,
occurs.
I'm just
Yeah.
asking, how much money we're voting for.
Ma'am?
Pat Chokran, 642 Main Street. Just based on the idea that there are many changes that are going on here, and it seems to be some confusion here, I suggest that we dismiss this article and bring it back at the fall town meeting.
Second.
Okay, there's a motion on the floor to dismiss. Any discussion? All those in favor? Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Kathy Lannon, 6 Cedar Street. Since I brought forth some of these things, it was not my intent by any means to dismiss this article, just to understand it.
And
So-
Madam-
So I would not be in favor of dismissal.
Madam Moderator?
Mr. Schultz?
Aside from two clerical errors where duplicate items slipped through, and one clerical error where the charter and this bylaw was not inserted, which we've addressed now through amendments, the rest of this has just been all part of the normal town meeting debate. I mean, these are questions that people ask. We clarified the phrase "or otherwise." We discussed how much a replacement town administrator may cost. This is what town debate's all about. If we dismissed everything we had legitimate questions about, we'd pass nothing. or have no legitimate conversations. So I'd say thank you for helping us clear up the clerical errors. A little embarrassing there, but thank you. And I'm opposed to dismissal of this. I think we have a good article. I think that it has now been cleared up. I wish it had been cleared up before we got in here, but I would be opposed to dismissal.
Any further discussion of dismissal of the article? All those in favor of dismissal, please say aye. Aye. Opposed?
No.
The dismissal does not pass, so we're back to the main Article 19. Any further discussion of the main article? Excuse me, sir. Ma'am?
Wayne
Wait,
Clark.
sir.
You go first. Oh, I'm sorry.
I just had a question. Lisa Harden, 56 Walnut Street. Does our new position of assistant town administrator have anything to do with an acting town administrator position? Or are they totally separate?
Mr. Kaczynski.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. Although the new assistant town administrator could be the acting town administrator, it does not require it. It could be any official that the town administrator designates and is approved by the select board.
Sir.
Wayne Clarko, Walnut Street. I'd like to make a friendly amendment to provision L. I don't believe that this is a clearly drafted document, but I'd like to make it as clear as possible in regard to litigation, of which I have a lot of experience. I've never seen the word compromise listed as a responsibility in response to the town's handling of litigation. I think the word compromise needs to be struck and the words negotiate and settle, subject to approval of the select board, is the more appropriate way to express those responsibilities.
Is there a second?
Second.
I'm going to defer to, no? So the motion on the floor is to, if I'm understanding correctly, strike the word compromise?
Strike the word compromise and insert negotiate and settle, subject to the approval of the select board.
Okay, any further discussion of the amendment? All those in favor? Oh, sorry, sir. Mr. Brewer.
Could the town council kindly opine?
I would say either is fine. The only reason I didn't comment is because they mean the same thing.
Thank you. Any further discussion of the amendment? All those in favor of the amendment, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Passes in the majority. Back to the main article. Any further discussion of Article 19? Okay, so we're going to vote on Article 19. All those in favor of Article 19, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Passes by majority. Article 20.
Madam Moderator,
Mr. Underhill.
I move that the town vote to make the following changes to the town charter with ratification at an annual election. Section 4-2, Other Elected Officers, by amending the language as follows. Section A, the town clerk shall be appointed, with said appointment to be made following the end of the term of town clerk who is elected as of the date of this amendment.
Second.
Article 20 has been moved and seconded. Discussion.
Madam Moderator,
Mr. Underhill.
this article is not in any way a reflection on the current town clerk. What this article ensures is that when Millis needs a new town clerk, there can be legal and experiential requirements for the position. An elected town clerk position cannot require knowledge of the legal requirements or experience on the part of the candidate. So we have no guarantee that Millis will enjoy the services we currently have by a qualified and experienced town clerk. If this position is made appointed rather than elected, it will become another department under the town administrator, such as the DPW, police department, and fire department. Doing so would allow the town administrator under the select board to choose the best qualified candidate for Millis. Millis commissioned an organizational assessment of the town clerk's office. Among the recommendations by the assessors was to make the town clerk position appointed and report to the town administrator. Some of the reasons given were the increasing technical responsibilities and qualifications needed for the position of town clerk. Some of these include open meeting law, conflict of interest laws, ethics, early and absentee voting regulations, and town meeting regulations. The report continued to say that the tenure and experience of the town clerk could be better managed through an appointment process.
Before we discuss this article, I'd like to just state that this is, as Mr. Underhill stated, about how we staff this position moving forward. This is not about the individual in the position. We will not be discussing their qualifications, their personality, or their term. What is in front of us here to discuss is how we will move forward staffing our town clerk's position. Thank you. So further discussion.
Can I be recognized, Madam Moderator?
State your name and address. Please move forward as well, please.
Jennifer Farrar, 7 Rolling Meadow.
Thank you.
I just want to say I've been giving it a lot of thought because it's a serious undertaking, deciding to take away power of people to vote, rather appointed. And I'll just submit that I couldn't make a decision based on what was written here. I don't think there was enough information for any of us to make such an important decision, such as the tenure of the person, like how many hours, what the salary would be. And I think just it's premature. I would even think maybe dismissing it and coming back with something more robust. But I just feel like voting for this either way feels like tantamount to like signing a blank check, like you're signing and voting for it, but then later you'll find out the details.
Are you putting a dismissal in front of us, or are you just stating a position?
I'm saying I don't think we can vote on it, so yeah, I'll motion to dismiss it. I don't think anybody will.
Okay. Mr. Schultz.
I've never been a moderator, but I've been to a lot of these. If there's a motion on the floor, doesn't that motion supersede the motion to dismiss? Or does the motion to dismiss take priority over a affirmative motion that's already been made and seconded?
It would be akin to a substitute motion. So it's similar to a motion to indefinitely postpone, which would take priority. So it is debatable, though. So it's akin to that. So it's allowable.
Ms. Moderator?
Excuse me, Mr. Stedman.
I'd like to reiterate what Mr. Underhill said, that if this passes tonight, it will appear as a vote on the town ballot. This is not the final action. This is to put it on the ballot for approval.
Ms. Moderator, can I just say that I don't think I'd have any information then either. Like, we need a robust narrative is my point.
Further discussion of the motion to dismiss the article. This is not discussing the balance of the article. We are discussing a motion to dismiss. Any further discussion of the motion to dismiss? Ma'am.
Madam Moderator, Pat Sjogren, 642 Main Street. May I speak as to why I would agree with dismissal?
You can speak to this dismissal, yes.
The reasons why I feel it should remain the way it is?
No, you can speak to why you'd like to hear it dismissed. We're not going to speak to the substance of the article.
Okay, I concur that I think that it should be dismissed because I don't think there's enough information.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any further discussion of the dismissal, Mr. Schultz?
Yeah, Madam Moderator, I would be opposed to dismissal. I mean, part of the reason of town meeting is to have information distributed, and without having the ability to present our case, because there's a motion to dismiss, we can't give you the information and the reasons beyond what you've already heard. I think dismissal at this moment is premature. If you listen to the presentation and answer questions that are had, and you feel that it needs to be dismissed, then vote no. Vote against the motion to to do this, to implement, vote against the Finance Committee's motion. But at this point, if we move to dismiss and we come back with it in a year, and the first motion is a motion to dismiss before we have a chance to present, we'll do this every year for the next 5 years. It's got to be a point to discuss it at some point, and that's what town meeting's about. It goes back to the other comment I made. We discuss things at town meeting. By dismissing it right now, we're not going to have a chance to talk about the merits of this and why it's important, and there's a lot of good reasons. There's a lot of reasons it makes sense to do it, none of which relate to the incumbent. It relates to the future of the town. But until we get a chance to make that affirmative argument, then we can't have that discussion.
Madam Moderator, can I be recognized? Jennifer Farrar? Can they answer my questions that I thought were missing of what hours, what the salary would be? Would it have benefits?
Yes. I will allow you to ask some questions under the circumstances.
Those were the questions. How many hours? Who would they report to? Would it have benefits? And what would the salary be?
Mr. Kaczynski.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. Actually, the article itself really deals with the methods of appointment, not with the other questions you asked, which are legitimate questions, but those really cannot be addressed until the town determines whether or not it wants to make this change. That is a change for a future town meeting that the select board will need to make a proposal to the finance committee and town meeting if there are going to be any changes to the salary, the hours. There'll be a lot of things to be considered. But at this point, really, I think the select board is looking for a determination from town meeting as whether the town is interested in changing the method of appointment.
Madam Moderator, I'll just say that I know what the stipend is now when I elect someone. I just don't feel like I can, on a basis, vote for an unknown and then find out later I might disagree with the outcome.
One moment.
Madam Moderator, thank you. I guess I would just make the point that certainly if there's any change to the pay or any other factors there, this is going to have to be brought back before the town meeting. So the town meeting will have that opportunity. If this moves forward and at a ballot election, the townspeople decide to make this change, and then subsequently the select board makes a decision to change the hours, the salary, so forth, it needs to come back to this body. And I think to anticipate what may happen 2 years from now would be a difficult thing to do at this point.
So, Madam Moderator, I'm going to step away so other people can talk about this.
Thank you. One moment. We're just going to take a quick moment to confer for a second here with our counsel. Mr. Schultz.
Without going into the minute details, we believe on the select board, and the reason we put this forward, is we have a salary structure that performs the jobs. Whether those are filled, how much each person in that structure makes in the hours they work, we should be able to do this in an expense-neutral way. It won't drive the expenses up. So that answers some of the question. It would report to the town manager, like every other department head. So that answers one of your other questions. The reason we're doing it is we had a town accountant years ago who wasn't an accountant. We have a great town clerk right now. In 2 election cycles, are we still going to have a great town clerk, or are we going to have somebody who, has no skills, no qualifications, no background? This was done to protect the town. And we did that in the past with other positions that were elected. We've moved more and more to a professional town management, and we've been blessed. We've been lucky with what we've had. Anybody can run for office, proven that. But anybody can run for office, and they may get enough votes to be elected. And then that's your town clerk for 3 years. And they may not be able to get us grants. They may not be able to run elections. They may not be able to do all the things that are happening right now. And that's our concern. There's rules and roles and responsibilities that only the town clerk can do. And we're lucky to have who we have. Who knows what's going to happen next? that's why, that's why we put this forward. So I can answer some of your questions about it, but it's the overall philosophy behind it that's the key to us.
Referring to town council
I may
for a moment.
also answer a couple of the questions too. When we talk about a study that is out there in terms of changing from from elected to appointed for the town clerk position, that's not unique to the town of Millis. We represent many other communities. That's the universal recommendation across the Commonwealth to professionalize these offices, and that is the trend among other communities, primarily because of the growing complexity of election laws, the growing complexity of the process to get bylaw amendments process, and other licensing things. It's becoming an increasingly difficult and professionalized position, so the studies and the recommendations have been trending in that direction for all communities. So.
Can I be recognized, Madam Moderator? Because I just want to say, I don't think they're talking about the dismissal, they're talking about the merits.
We understand, and I gave them some leeway to do that.
Okay, well.
So we were okay. So unless you plan on withdrawing your motion to
No,
dismiss.
I'm just saying no one's discussing the
No, right.
dismissal.
No, I understand what you're saying. We had a little bit of leeway to discuss that, but let's move back to discussing dismissal. So please speak to why you do or don't want this dismissed, please.
Stan Yablonsky, Glen Ellen. How long has Millis had a elected town clerk?
Okay, I need you to speak to whether you want this
I know, I'm
dismissed or
going
not.
towards that. You have to give me some leeway to get to my point.
No, learn the process, sir. You don't. That's my point. So if you have something in particular that you're going to speak to this
Okay, so
dismissal,
let's
then
assume
speak.
that the Millis town clerk has been an elected position forever. Norfolk elects their town clerk. Medfield elects their town clerk. Holliston elects their town clerk. All of a sudden, because it appears that there's an issue between
Sir,
certain
are you
people.
speaking for dismissal or against dismissal?
I'm speaking that we don't have enough information,
Again, are you speaking
and
for
we're going to
dismissal
vote for
or against
dismissal. So I'm all for dismissal, not
Thank you.
enough info.
Thank you. Ma'am?
Me?
Yes, we're going back and forth here.
Lisa Harden, 56 Walnut Street, your current town clerk for the past 20 years. And just,
Yep.
we have had an elected town clerk for 135 years. I am going to speak in favor of dismissal because, contrary to what has been said here, this does apply directly to me.
Okay, ma'am, we are
If
not
this-
discussing, it doesn't apply directly to you.
It does, because this language will go on next year's ballot in May, and I plan to run again in May, and if it passes, this language will go into effect
What we are
July
discussing
1st.
here is
So
the
I would
process,
lose
excuse me, what
my
we're
term.
discussing here is the process of how we're planning on staffing this in the future. It does not, no, but it really doesn't.
It's not the future,
No,
it's
but it
next
is the
year.
future, but that's the future, and that's
But
what
that's
we're
my
discussing. What this
term.
article is in front of, your term is up. Whether you choose to run again and whether that will then be an elected situation is what we're trying to discuss here. That's my point.
So we
No.
all agree it will apply to me, that's all.
Mr. Angelo.
Jim Angelo, 34 Lavender Street. I've lived in town for a while, and I'm speaking against dismissal. We've elected some very good town clerks, and what this amendment says to us is that we're not smart enough to elect our town clerk. And I would vote against this, and to me, it's a power grab. It's almost like they'll control the elections, they'll control record keeping. It should be dismissed.
Any further discussion of the dismissal of this article?
Yes, Jai Carla Blanc, 30 Myrtle Street, and I'm speaking in favor of the dismissal. I've been the chair and on the Board of Health now for almost 6 years. I'm an elected official, and I came in not knowing what it was to be a member of the Board of Health, and by becoming a member of the Board of Health, I've gotten much more invested in the town functions and education, And I can only encourage more people to show up for public service through an elected position, through a volunteer position. But it's because of what I have gained in being an elected official who started as simply trying to help research something, that I don't want this position to go to an appointed position. I think democracy requires more people showing up and participating and educating themselves and getting inspired. So for that reason, as well as others, but that's the one I'm stating, I'm speaking in favor of the dismissal of this proposal. Thank you.
Any further discussion of the dismissal of this motion? So to be clear, if you vote in the affirmative, we are dismissing Article 20. If you vote in the negative, we are back to the main motion. Yeah, just a majority. All those in favor of dismissing Article 20, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? No. I can't call this. We're going to have to do a standing count. So can we close the doors, please, and people, the tellers, come forward?
Caught in a moment.
Are we ready? I'm still seeing the doors open. Are we not all in the room? Thank you. So I would ask everyone to start by taking a seat.
She's won 7 times. No one can beat it. They want to take it away. She's never done anything wrong.
Has everyone taken a seat? All those in favor of dismissing Article 20, please stand up and stay standing till you're counted. I'm not doing anything, just telling you.
Yeah, it's not going to pass. It's not going to pass with 2/3. So it's not going to pass with 2/3. It's dismissed as well. There's no point, even for dismissal.
I think we better.
And then we can get you a budget binder too.
Do it. Go take or go home.
This light's really No, I was looking for one. The best they had was a Snickers. Yeah, that's what I had. Oh, yeah. You need a Snickers for me to turn into? You need a Snickers.
To get away.
Diva, you know. What's it worth?
No, not my fault.
M&M.
I want a trail mix. What about crackles? Reese's? It's gone around the world and back. What? That you're out. What
trail has it been on?
I've been scuba diving in Hawaii.
Admiring this. This is real. It's fun.
Well, this is just like the turtle that we see. Can you have one?
I feel like we should offer people. Anyone want anything?
I managed to slap some in right now.
Should we throw
No.
Get these things. Doesn't want it every year.
Just so that you're aware, we're doing a double count so that we can be absolutely assured that this is where it should be when we're done. No, fierce. No.
Yeah, what? I don't know. I'm really not good at crowds.
I'm like, oh my God, not fun, but two. I'm like, I know I looked at this thing and it went back to like a few early versions. I'm like,
clock for the next one.
You can sit down now. Thank you.
11:15, I have the latest.
If you go by that clock.
Don't go by that. But that thing's fast, yeah.
Okay, now we can have the people stand who are against dismissal, please. I've never been She's a helicopter. This unit never gets Oh, on my Can people sit down yet, or no, they're still counting? I'm sorry.
Hale State, they wanted to approve the operating budget, and then they left. The night is young, Madam Moderator. We've got a long way to go. Tired.
That's what it is.
You should be the new human resource officer.
For the wax for the next meeting. Who gets the mic next? So who gets the microphone next? I'm looking at you. Right, but for out of this microphone. For you, John,
sit down now, please. Thank you for your patience as we did that. I just wanted to be doubly sure. So the motion to dismiss Article 20 has passed 87 to 40. Please, no applause. It's really not appropriate. So the Article 20 has been dismissed. Article 21.
One moment, Madam
Yep.
Moderator. Madam Moderator?
Ms. McGinnis.
Article 21, I move that the town vote to amend the zoning bylaws as most recently amended by amending the section identified herein as follows. 1, by amending Section 12, Administration and Enforcement, capital T, Associate Member to the Planning Board, from, quote, an associate member to the Planning Board shall be appointed by the Board of Selectmen for a term of 1 year, such associate member to act on special permits. And change to, quote, an associate member to the Planning Board shall be appointed by the Select Board for a term of 1 year, such associate member to act on special permits and site plans.
Second.
Article 21 has been moved and seconded. Discussion.
Madam Moderator, this article will authorize associate planning board members to vote on site plans when a quorum of elected planning board members is not present. Associate planning board members may currently vote on special permit applications, and this will extend their authority to also vote on site plans.
The Planning Board, at a public meeting held on Tuesday, March 15th, 2020, at the Veterans Memorial Building, voted to recommend approval of this article. Is there any further discussion of Article 21?
Lisa Harden, 56 Walnut Street, also town clerk. This, just to let the town meeting know, this doesn't actually make the position of associate member any larger. They can already vote on site plans because site plans are only looked at in relation to special permits. And so it seems redundant, and state law specifically says that we can have an associate member act on special permits and does not include the wording of site plans, so I'm not sure if it makes a difference that this will now conflict with state law.
We don't want that to happen.
Sir?
Madam Moderator, as a former planning board member, 17 years, and former chairman, I think this is an excellent idea. It's been things in the past, as I think a lot of permits go on for a long time, and when I say a long time, some of them last years. So it's important that you have a quorum there, and if this associate can go ahead and fill in and vote on the complete things that come up before the planning board, I think it's an excellent idea. Thank
Can
you.
you just identify yourself after the fact?
Brutus Cannareggi, 7 Blueberry Lane, Millis, Massachusetts, also your fabulous tree warden.
Thank you. Any further discussion of Article 21? This does take a 2/3 majority. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? No. Passes by 2/3. Article 22.
Madam Moderator?
Ms. McGinnis.
I move that the town vote to amend Table 2, Area Regulations, and Table 3, Height and Bulk Regulations in Section 6 of the Town of Millis zoning bylaw to insert I-P-2 district to the I-P column as written in the warrant.
Second.
Article 22 has been moved and seconded. Discussion.
Madam Moderator?
Ms. McGinnis.
This article will amend Tables 2 and 3 of the Town of Millis zoning bylaw to include zoning district I-P-2, which was omitted in the printing of the tables of the zoning bylaws due to an oversight.
Any further discussion of Article 22? This does require a two-thirds vote. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Oh. Opposed? Passes unanimously. Article 23.
Madam Moderator,
Mr. Borgman.
I move that the town vote to accept the provisions of MGL Chapter 71, Section 37M, and authorize the consolidation of facilities maintenance functions of the school committee with those of the town, provided that such consolidation only occur upon a majority vote of the school committee.
Second.
Article 23 has been moved and seconded. Discussion.
Madam Moderator,
Mr. Borgman.
this article will consolidate facilities management between the town and the school, saving money.
Any further discussion of Article 23?
Jim Angelo, 34 Lavender Street. Basically, is the school going to fork over their money for cleaning the buildings, or are we going to end up paying for all the cleaning of the buildings out of the regular funds?
Madam Moderator.
Mr. Berube.
So just to clarify, and it was said by Mr. Borgman, this particular article does not deal with any appropriation of funding either way. What it does is it provides the authorization to consolidate the services. But if you recall, during the Article 3 operating budget, the town would essentially reduce its custodial maintenance budget by a certain amount, and the school would assume that responsibility on behalf of the town buildings, and in the net, the town will end up saving money because the school has a better or a more robust capability and can do it more efficiently.
Madam Moderator, Bruce Conradi, 7 Blueberry Lane. I just want to say I think this is an excellent idea. I think it should have happened a long time ago. I really think, the select board and the school department should work together more, and this should be the first step. I mean, we're looking at doing janitors. We can start looking about sharing IT costs, the same administrators. We could actually share parks and parks maintenance, because I think we all know that when you bring things together, the larger group, you're going to get better prices. So I really think it's a step in the right direction, and I applaud all of you. Thank you.
Jim Angelo, 34 Lavender Street. I'm not questioning whether you're going to get better cleaning services. What I'm questioning is, and you say it's not going to affect money, if they're going to take over cleaning the town buildings, they're going to, obviously we're going to transfer money to them. Well, I mean, what's going to happen here? I mean, more money going to the school or more money coming to the town?
Mr. Schultz.
Well, first off, there isn't a school and a town and a municipal budget. There's a town budget. If we save money anywhere, it's in effect reducing the cost for everybody, whether you have a kid in the school or not. It's not putting more money in the school or taking more money from the town. It's reducing the cost of running the town. If there's a cheaper way to do it, if that means we transfer funds to the school to provide all the janitorial staff for the town buildings, fantastic. I just saved money. And that's the way I look at it. There's not this us and them. It's not the select board and the school committee. I think that's, to Mr. Catareggi's argument, I think that's why it's taken so long to do this. We're trying to work together now with the two elected bodies, the select board and the school committee, to save money for everybody. It's not the school getting more money or the town getting more money or the town losing money and the school getting money. We're saving money for everybody. And that's what we're trying to do. And I agree with Brutus on the parks. There's a lot of places we can go with this if this model works. I think this is a great first step, and I think it's important we do it. If we keep these silos, we're just going to keep wasting money across all departments.
Ma'am.
Lisa Harden, 56 Walnut Street. This seems to be a little bit of a trend here with warrant articles being submitted that are very vague about what the actual money involved would be. You say, we're not doing any money now, we have to vote on it blindly, and then it gets passed, and then you can do whatever you plan to do with the money later. So I like the idea, but it's very vague. And also in terms of it's the town's maintenance, isn't there something like a 65-35 split that's required between schools and towns?
Madam Moderator.
Mr. Berube.
Perhaps when I was reviewing the $39 million budget, operating budget in Article 3, some of the numbers get lost in explaining all of that data and all of those movements. But I did cover the costs that were being reduced out of the town budget and the cost that would be added to the school budget. Again, not two different budgets, but essentially the net effect is a reduction in the cost to the town as a whole. And that was discussed in my discussion comments for Article 3. And it has been discussed, just about all of these items have been discussed in Finance Committee meetings, Select Board meetings, school board meetings. Not that any of you have all of the time to attend those. Most of us don't. We don't attend to each other's meetings. But these things have been discussed in length, and they are public record if you care to look at them further.
Sir.
Monitor. Tom Stannis, 334 Orchard Street. Just a quick question on consolidation. Normally that means job cuts. Do you know, will there be any job cuts when you consolidate two things to reduce cost? Reduce cost normally is payroll, number one.
Are you going to state your second question now or wait for us to
Oh, no,
answer?
that was it, just one.
Okay.
That was a concern.
I defer to my colleague.
Sandra Hill.
There will be no job cuts.
No job
in order to obtain this.
Okay, thank you.
Any further discussion of Article 23? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes by a majority. Article 24.
Madam Moderator,
Mr. Laura.
I move that the town vote to transfer from free cash the sum of $10,275 for the unemployment insurance fund.
Second.
Madam Moderator.
Article 24 has been moved and seconded. Any discussion?
Madam Moderator.
Mr. Laura.
Each year, the town appropriates a reasonable amount of free cash to the unemployment insurance fund. The $10,275 represents the remaining balance in free cash after the other town needs have been funded. The Finance Committee recommends approval of this article.
Any further discussion of Article 24? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously. Article 25.
Madam Moderator.
Mr. Laura.
I move that the town vote to dismiss Article 25.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded to dismiss Article 25. Discussion.
Madam Moderator.
Mr. Laura.
Currently, the town is covering claims as needed from the general operating budget for adequate coverage for any FY23 claims. The Finance Committee recommends dismissal of this article.
Any further discussion of the dismissal of Article 25? All those in favor of dismissal, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Passes unanimously. Article 26.
Madam Moderator.
Mr. Borgman.
I move that the town vote to dismiss Article 26.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to dismiss Article 26. Discussion.
Madam Moderator.
Mr. Borgman.
The town of Millis has adopted a policy to maintain a stabilization fund equal to 5% of its annual general fund budget expenditures to be used for unforeseen and emergency purposes. Additional funds are not required at this time.
Any further discussion of this dismissal of Article 26? All those in favor of dismissing Article 26, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously. Article 27,
Madam Moderator,
Mr. Berube.
I move that the town vote to dismiss Article 27.
It has been moved and seconded to dismiss Article 27. Discussion.
Madam Moderator,
Mr. Berube.
there are several concerning factors that caused the Finance Committee to recommend dismissal of this article. Namely, there are concerns with, 1, the process that is being undertaken to substantially change town governance, 2, some of the claims made in favor of the change, and 3, the potential outcome if that change were to be implemented. To begin, the Finance Committee is the Finance Committee is concerned with the process undertaken to significantly change structure of town government is far too expedient. While the committee fully honors and respects the rights of citizens to petition and be heard at town meeting, that is not to say that we agree with the ends that these petitions seek. To the contrary, and for the reasoning I will discuss, we disagree with the intent of the articles and therefore recommend its dismissal. It has been contended that these articles are simply step 1 of a process to authorize creation of an elected Water and Sewer Board of Commissioners, and that if passed at this town meeting, a fact-finding process would begin to develop the best understanding, organization, and process to represent the water and sewer ratepayers. However, we disagree with this assertion. Rather, if passed, the language contained in the proposed Home Rule, Charter, and bylaw amendments would be voted at the polls as is presented and potentially approved now, without refinement or amendment before a vote at the polls. We feel the more appropriate way for the town to discuss whether and specifically how to change the structure of local government affecting vast numbers of residents and ratepayers is through dialogue and exchange of ideas at the front end of the process versus a petition initiative with a low threshold of 10 petitioners. It should be noted that a means for exchanging ideas like this and advising the Select Board already exists in the bylaws and has been suggested by Select Member Schultz. Bylaw Article 5, Section 28 authorizes the Select Board to appoint a Water and Sewer Advisory Committee to provide advice and information to the Select Board on matters relating to the operations of the water and sewer enterprises. In terms of some arguments made in favor of these articles, there are a couple warranting response. First, the term misappropriation was repeatedly and incorrectly used. Misappropriation not only has a negative connotation, but also has a specific meaning in public finance or government accounting. Misappropriation generally implies criminal activity. As I've stated during Finance Committee proceedings, other public meetings, and again now, there has not been any allegations of misappropriation of funds or any other illegal conduct. Use of that term regrettably created the perception that town officials were somehow misusing utility enterprise resources. The Finance Committee does not agree with this insinuation and cautions against basing a vote on this charge or language. Another argument for the articles which we disagree with is the efforts to allocate costs are wholly unsound. Early in the public discussion of this article, a reason given for why the proposed change was sought was because of dissatisfaction over how much water and sewer enterprise funds were being transferred to the town's general operating budget. Proponents of the petition claimed unless a change is made, the Select Board would continue to take hundreds of thousands of dollars from the enterprise to fund their budget. Some brief explanation of the sewer and water enterprises is warranted. The town's water, sewer, and storm water services, called enterprises, are officially funded and budgeted for separately than the town's other services. In the case of water and sewer services specifically, this is because their provision is afforded by the collection of usage fees. Conversely, the town's other general services are funded mainly by property taxes. The town hires craftsmen, skilled labor, and tradespersons for all of its functions, including the water and sewer utilities, and endeavors to employ them efficiently across the spectrum of functions needed. For example, a DPW employee who has skills necessary to work on an electrical system on a town traffic device could also be used to maintain or fix a motor in a water or sewer pump station. Millis, nor virtually any other town our size, does not hire 2 electricians, one for town systems and one for water and sewer utilities, and constrain their use to town or enterprise operations, as this would be a waste of taxpayer and ratepayer resources. To account for the daily allocation of direct labor between traditional town DPW work and enterprise work, processes to accurately capture and allocate costs must be in place. Additionally, the town must have the ability to calculate the indirect costs, like insurance, employee benefits, etc., associated with the same. This has been a focus area for the Select Board, Town Administrator, Finance Committee, the Enterprise Fund Advisory Committee, the Finance Director, and others for several years. In November 2017, the Town Administrator, within months of being hired, identified that the town lacked documented methodology, and since 2010, did not annually calculate indirect costs for services performed by the enterprises by various town departments, including executive, budget, legal, accounting, treasurer, collector, assessor, and IT for allocation to the enterprises. The town administrator proposed a new model, and the Select Board promptly voted to adopt the recommended changes. That same model is presented on page 38 of the Finance Committee report and is currently in use. This year, for example, the water and sewer enterprises are allocated $169,580 in costs for legal, accounting, billing, collecting, and assessing necessary for the town to administer the enterprises. In 2019, the Select Board hired a consultant, referred to as Paradigm, to further review the enterprise cost accounting practices. In March 2021, Paradigm recommended that the town revise its methodology and improve its practices to collect labor hours for accounting of DPW employees working on the enterprises. The town has since implemented those recommendations. Paradigm also recommended that the town refine its model for estimating indirect costs. The town has begun refinement of its model and has reduced the total recommended allocation correction by 50%. Paradigm provided further analysis and recommendations early this year, including adoption of a 3-year rolling average of indirect costs and methodology to implement allocation adjustments over 3, 5, or 7 years. This issue is still before the Select Board. The town is in fact capturing costs and allocating between the enterprise and town obligations appropriately. If passed, this article would result in less efficient government with blurred lines of communication and authority, not a more streamlined version. As it exists today, the DPW director reports to the town administrator, who receives direction and priorities from the Select Board. There are clear and singular lines of communication and responsibility across the spectrum of services the town provides, including roads, utilities, emergency services, environmental compliance, and more. Conversely, if approved, Article 27 and 28 would create a new body of governments with overlapping authority. It should be anticipated that if the town administrator, finance director, and DPW staffs work for multiple authorities or bosses who may or may not be in sync or in agreement with each other, friction and confusion will ensue. The proposed structure would also increase the communication and coordination efforts required of other departments, boards, and committees, as issues like road maintenance and repairs, utility repairs, new development and construction, planning and zoning, environmental compliance, and many others would need to be considered and deconflicted by the 2 governing bodies rather than one. The effort required to inform and appraise the Select Board would be needed for a board of water and sewer commissioners for cross-responsibility issues. The result would be redundant effort and added cost. Finally, the FinCom heard from those experienced with other towns that have separate elected Select Board and Board of Water and Sewer Commissioners, and the anecdotal testimony that we heard was not positive. The arrangement often leads to conflict and fighting between the dual boards. The Finance Committee voted 5-4 to dismiss this article.
There's a minority opinion that's going to be presented as well. Ms. Garzon?
Thank you, Madam Moderator. As has been explained, Article 27 is a petition article to amend the Town of Millis Home Rule Charter to authorize an elected Board of Water and Sewer Commissioners. Article 28 will propose an amendment to the general bylaws to define the composition and powers and duties of an elected Board of Water and Sewer Commissioners. For each of these articles, the Finance Committee voted 5-4 to recommend dismissal of these articles. Pursuant to our Town of Millis Finance Committee operating policies and procedures, those of us in the minority, myself, Joyce Boyardi, Kathy McInnes, and Jim Borgman, offer this minority report to explain our dissent from the majority and present our recommendation at town meeting for warrant articles 27 and 28. I'm going to do the report together instead of making you listen to me twice. Our recommendation of the articles for approval would be one of many steps toward exploring the desirability of a separately elected Board of Sewer and Water Commissioners. Our charge as Finance Committee members is to carefully consider all sides of each warrant article that is presented to us for recommendation. The issue of fairness and reasonableness in setting the water and sewer rates for the town has become a hotly debated issue. It is our opinion that the question of whether the town would be better served by having an elected Water and Sewer Commission is best answered by town meeting members. Such a board would have the sole responsibility to work for the benefit of ratepayers without the need to add paid staff to our town government. Several residents put their time and efforts into crafting these citizens' petitions, and several more signed the petitions to allow them to appear on the warrant at town meeting. Those of us dissenting on the majority vote on these two articles generally support streamlined government systems, but we also have concerns that our Millis water and sewer ratepayers feel like their voices have not been sufficiently heard in the way our water and sewer and enterprise funds have been managed. Rather than vote to recommend dismissal, we would rather have the voters here at town meeting decide how they want to proceed.
Thank you. Further discussion?
Madam Moderator? Kathy McInnes, 78 Island Road. Many of us in this auditorium agree with the minority report presented by our Finance Committee Vice Chair. Thank you, Jody. The citizen petitioners held a public forum last week regarding these articles. After the forum was held, numerous questions were received on social media, telephone calls, and emails. As you also know, Madam Moderator, we have urged all residents to come forward with comments and questions. Your voices have and will continue to be heard by the citizen petitioners and the members of the Enterprise Funds Advisory Committee that was dissolved by the Select Board. The approximately 2,763 water ratepayers and 1,601 sewer ratepayers are rightfully concerned about their payments being used for non-water and non-sewer matters, or as Chair Berube states, these misallocated funds. Soon we'll come to find out when misallocated becomes misappropriated.
Please keep
But
your
come to find
comments,
out,
please keep your comments civil and to the point. Those are neither. Thank you.
Come to find out, lots and lots of residents are opposed to these articles because they want stormwater enterprise funds included in the petitions, not later, now. Because there are outstanding questions, the citizen petitioners concur in the dismissal of these articles and will submit petitions for the fall town meeting to be held in November. We figure there can be no further harm done in the next 6 months while we continue to research and inform our residents. Thank you to everyone, and thank you especially, Madam Moderator.
Any further discussion of the motion to dismiss Article 27?
Madam Moderator, Jim Duffy, Exchange Street. Question of dismiss or postpone?
The article and the motion in front of us is dismiss. What I'm hearing, I don't know if Mrs.
Yeah, I'd actually like to make a motion that we postpone the articles.
Jay Tallerman.
So it's, a motion to indefinitely postpone has the effect of dismissal anyway. Under town meeting time, there's actually no cognizable motion to dismiss. So it has the same effect because articles can't carry over from town meeting to town meeting. The motion to dismiss is the same exact thing as indefinite postponement.
Any further discussion of the motion to dismiss Article 27? All those in favor of dismissal of Article 27, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Passes by majority, the dismissal. Article 28,
Madam Moderator,
Mr. Berube.
I move that the town vote to dismiss Article 28.
Second. It's moved and seconded to dismiss Article 28. Discussion?
I repeat my concerns from Article 27.
Thank you. And we already heard the minority opinion from Ms. Garzone. Any further discussion of the motion to dismiss Article 28? All those in favor of dismissal, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? I'm sorry, were you, no, sir, okay, so all those in favor of dismissal, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes by majority.
Madam Moderator,
Mr. Berube.
move to adjourn.
Second. It's been moved to and seconded. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Passes unanimously.
You win. I'm a dime. If it was another minute, I would have won. It's all right. If John's dead.